Aplauso. Bueno, ahora sí, bienvenido al tercer día. Mi nombre es Emiliano, soy de Mendoza. Y bueno, vamos a comenzar. Todo el mundo con el hashtag MediaParty, tuiteando ya. Todo el mundo ahora tuiteen para empezar. Así somos tendencia en un ratito. Y anuncio parroquial que me dio Blackman. Cuando termine las keynote, hacemos la foto de la escalera. La foto de todos abajo. Y levantando los brazos, sin mojarnos. Y bueno, empezamos a presentar las primeras keynote.
Hola, soy Flor Coelho, vine al primer meetup de Hackers y vine a todas las media parties. Y creo que somos muy afortunados las personas de Buenos Aires de ser anfitriones de este evento espectacular. Y también junto con Emi somos del equipo del emoji del mate. El que quiere sticker, tenemos stickers, después. Y vamos a hablar del emoji del mate más tarde. Pero ahora, bueno, la gente importante, Alba, bienvenida. Alba Mora, un aplauso.
Hola, hola.
Bueno, Alba era groupie de la Media Party. Yo ya sabía que le pidió a su jefe cuando trabajaba en AP en México que quería venir a Buenos Aires a la Media Party y si algún día quiere estar en el escenario y contar mis experiencias, ¿no? Y ahora viene como productora de AJ Plus, ¿no? Directora, productora ejecutiva de AJ Plus, ahí está. Ajá. Y viene a presentar Verificado 2018, que es un proyecto de AJ Plus, de Pájaro Político y otro...
Animal Político y Pop-Up Newsroom.
Ajá.
Ahorita les cuento.
Está bien, buenísimo. Bueno, muchas gracias por venir. Adelante.
Hola, buenos días. Gracias por estar aquí a esta hora, un viernes. De verdad, sé que cuesta. Les voy a hablar del proyecto Verificado 2018, que es una iniciativa de periodismo colaborativo que hicimos en México no hace mucho. Tuvimos las elecciones presidenciales, la selección fue el 1 de julio y armamos una iniciativa para combatir las fake news en México. Y pues más que nada voy a pasar por encima del proyecto, más que nada por si les puede servir a ustedes de inspiración para lo que se les acerca, ¿no? El año que viene ustedes tienen también elecciones. Las fake news no son un fenómeno nuevo, de hecho existen desde tiempos bíblicos. Lo que está cambiando muchísimo es la forma en la que se producen, se gestionan y se distribuyen, ¿no? Es un fenómeno global y desde mi punto de vista tiene también una solución, digamos, la solución solo puede ser colaborativa y global también. Verificado es una iniciativa que hicimos junto los compañeros de Animal Político, los Pop-Up Newsroom y AJ Plus Español, que es el medio donde estoy trabajando, y conseguimos formar más de 90 aliados en esta iniciativa entre medios, digamos, tradicionales como televisión, prensa escrita, hasta medios nativos digitales, locales, de 28 de los 32 estados que hay en México. Este fue un proyecto que duró 4 meses y fue financiado por Facebook, Google, hay una parte también de Twitter, Open Society. La cuestión es que los miembros fundadores, que somos estos tres, armamos una redacción central que es Verificado 2018 y con los aliados de más de 90 medios lo que hacíamos era compartir con ellos las verificaciones y los fact-checks de manera que podían también replicar. Voy a contar un poco cómo funcionaba. Esta es una imagen del fin de semana de las elecciones de México, de la redacción de Verificado. Éramos como unos 25 personas dedicadas nada más al proyecto de detectar y desmentir noticias falsas. Lo que buscábamos era ser una especie de oasis, una especie de referente en la conversación electoral para ayudar a nuestra audiencia a diferenciar entre lo que es real y lo que no. ¿Cómo lo hicimos? Empezamos haciendo una semana de formación en la que los medios aliados mandaban a algunos de sus reporteros que iban a colaborar en el proyecto y nos formamos, por ejemplo, en herramientas digitales. Por ejemplo, hacíamos cosas clavadas como poner los settings en Chrome para monitorear cómo circulaban noticias falsas con herramientas con Krasana, y aprendimos distintas herramientas. Realmente fuimos un referente en la conversación electoral. Por ejemplo, aquí puse una imagen de cómo diferentes actores políticos usaban a verificado, digamos, para sus propios intereses. En realidad, o sea, un día nos odiaban unos de un partido, el siguiente los del otro. Realmente fuimos ese elemento incómodo durante la campaña, pero que conseguimos también pequeñas victorias, como este tuit del equipo de la campaña de Andrés Manuel López Obrador, que decía: gracias verificado, efectivamente asumimos el error, pedimos una disculpa, borraremos el arte equivocado. O sea, conseguimos como pequeñas victorias y elevamos la conversación electoral, ayudando a la audiencia a tener un voto más informado, al fin y al cabo. Kofi Annan nos mencionó en uno de sus discursos diciendo, celebrando una iniciativa así, en números, a gran escala. Eso fue lo que, digamos, lo que conseguimos en 4 meses de iniciativa. Abrimos un canal de WhatsApp que les voy a mostrar después, pero abrimos unas cuentas de Twitter y Facebook solo de verificado, de manera que los aliados, todos los aliados podíamos replicar la información. Teníamos una página web, cuentas en redes sociales propias. Más imágenes de la reacción. ¿Cómo funcionaba? Esto es un primer acercamiento de cómo funcionaba cuando empezó el proyecto. Fue evolucionando. Es el flowchart que usábamos para organizar esta redacción digital que aunaba a más de 90 actores. Fue evolucionando. Básicamente, para simplificar el tema del flowchart, había 2 mesas de redacción, una dedicada al fact-checking y verificación, liderada por Animal Político, y otra mesa de innovación y multimedia, liderada por nosotros, por AJ+. Entonces, yo les voy a hablar de la mesa de innovación y multimedia porque en realidad esta es la primera iniciativa de estas características que tiene una mesa de innovación y multimedia dedicada a crear contenido de alta calidad para redes sociales. Y esto no se había hecho nunca. Entonces, quisiera compartirles esta experiencia. Esta es una foto del equipo de AJ+ en verificado. Nuestra premisa era la siguiente. En nuestro ecosistema informativo ya no se trata de escribir un artículo de texto. No puede ser la pieza central del fact-checking. El reto era realmente cómo romper ese círculo rojo que es muy común en fact-checking, que es el del círculo digamos, de los politólogos, los periodistas, esa burbujita, cómo romperla y hacer llegar esos desmentidos de noticias falsas a la audiencia de a pie, a la pantalla del celular. Y el mantra que teníamos en el equipo de AJ+ era, bueno, tenemos que combatir los rumores, combatir las teorías de la conspiración en el mismo terreno donde esas circulan y incluso usando el mismo, digamos, las mismas técnicas de storytelling y de lenguaje que son muy efectivas que las noticias falsas usan, ¿no? O los memes, todas esas digamos, medias visualmente muy atractivas. Entonces, ese es un pequeño dibujito que hice. Para mí era muy importante romper con la idea de, bueno, haces una nota, haces un artículo y luego lo distribuyes en plataformas de redes sociales. Porque, digamos, el contenido es en redes sociales y por lo tanto para mí era muy importante estar en ese círculo y no salir de Twitter, no salir de Facebook ni YouTube y estar en la conversación y en el flujo de la, de la desinformación sin salir de la plataforma. Era el approach que teníamos. Entonces, la idea básicamente fue producir contenido que fuera social media first, o sea, que fuera diseñado, optimizado y, digamos, a medida para cada red social. Entonces, ¿cómo funcionaba? O sea, esta sería la redacción de verificado central, que fue creada solo para el proyecto de verificado durante estos 4 meses, con la circularidad de que pues, el multimedia estaba en el ADN de la redacción, y además se sumaba el círculo de todos los aliados que recibían, entre otras cosas, recibían un email cada noche con la nota que íbamos a salir al día siguiente, y ellos lo podían replicar ya sea en la televisión, como por ejemplo Televisa era uno de los aliados, en prensa escrita, nacional y local, en radio, luego había los nativos digitales, miembros de las organizaciones de la sociedad civil también replicaban nuestros contenidos, y universidades. De manera que realmente conseguimos producir una experiencia transmedia, ¿no? Y tener mucho más alcance acerca de aquellas imágenes manipuladas, vídeos alterados que estaban circulando. Abrimos un canal de WhatsApp en la mesa multimedia, que para mí fue realmente algo muy divertido en que trabajar, y que tenía mucho sentido, porque realmente es en WhatsApp donde proliferan todas esas cadenas con rumores, y era en WhatsApp también donde nos llegaban las primeras, digamos, cadenas virales o informaciones falsas que más circulaban y que luego detectábamos en redes sociales. El WhatsApp lo inauguramos, o sea, duró 2 meses la cuenta de WhatsApp, y casi que llegamos a 10.000 suscriptores. Suscriptores significa gente que guarda tu número de WhatsApp en su agenda y tienen, digamos, una comunicación directa contigo, ¿no? que te aguarda en sus contactos. Estos son algunos pantallazos de las conversaciones. Para nosotros era muy importante contestar en la misma plataforma, no mandar un link para que fueran a leer una nota. Estas son algunas ideas del WhatsApp, arte, el equipo de WhatsApp. Hicimos un formato que se llama vertificado, que es vertical y verificado, que era específicamente diseñado para el WhatsApp. Algunos gráficos que mandábamos en el WhatsApp, todo muy visual. Experimentamos con los estados. Nuestro servicio de WhatsApp no es que nosotros empujábamos contenido, sino que era on demand. La gente nos pedía a través de los estados que le mandáramos vídeos. Experimentamos con las notas de voz, con los GIFs. Voy a pasar rápido porque veo que me estoy quedando sin tiempo. Hicimos también mucho hincapié en producir contenido de alfabetización digital. Por ejemplo, un video con presentador de 6 señales de que una noticia es falsa, o cuánto cuesta el tuit a un candidato. Eso fue uno de nuestros vídeos más virales, que llegó a más de 1 millón de reproducciones. Les voy a poner un pequeño ejemplo. Entrevistamos a personas que habían trabajado como bots en campañas de políticos. Les voy a mostrar un vídeo que hicimos.
Para los expertos en tecnología, los bots son cuentas automatizadas. Para la política, un bot también es un humano que le pagan para...
A ver, el audio está muy bajo, pero...
¿Quiénes son realmente? ¿Qué los motiva? Tras semanas de rastreo, conseguimos convencer a 3 personas de hablar sobre su experiencia trabajando como bots para partidos políticos en México. Todas nos han pedido no revelar su identidad.
Recibimos muchas críticas de la gente que se llegó a enterar de dónde trabajé y con quién trabajé y demás. Pues lo único que les puedo decir que era trabajo.
Para Carolina, todo comenzó con un anuncio en Facebook. Buscaba trabajo. Era 2012, tenía 24 años. Aplicó.
Yo esperaba como una capacitación o mínimo de qué se trataba.
Bueno, compartí el vídeo en mi cuenta de Twitter, con el hashtag de la media parte, pueden ver el video entero. Voy a pasar rápido porque se me está acabando el tiempo. Básicamente hicimos periodismo de servicio a la comunidad. Era muy importante estar conectados con las conversaciones online, en las redes sociales de la gente. ¿Es cierto? ¿Es falso? ¿Qué pasó con esto? También hicimos verificación en los debates y fact-checking. Esto es una imagen de… fueron 3 debates presidenciales, juntamos a grupos de expertos, nos dividimos por temas. Además de la mesa multimedia, nos ocupamos de hacer el live streaming, y lo que hicimos fue añadir, digamos, un aspecto de valor, como por ejemplo este contador. Cada vez que un candidato, en la misma transmisión de Facebook y de Twitter, íbamos haciendo el contador en tiempo real, de manera que al final del debate teníamos este gráfico. Más imágenes del fin de semana de las elecciones. Y bueno, verificado ya terminó. Fue una experiencia que ha dejado una bonita estela en México digamos, de conciencia acerca de cómo operan las noticias falsas y de estar más atentos a lo que compartimos. Creo que es un legado hermoso y nada. Espero que les haya servido de inspiración. Voy a dejar con un pequeño vídeo muy cortito de cuando nos despedimos de nuestra audiencia.
A millón el tweet, cabrón.
¿Cuál es la fuente de la información?
Bots ya son cosas del pasado.
Les voy a enseñar la redacción de Verificado 2018.
Dicen que es típico de nosotras llenar los chats familiares de alertas inventadas.
Si notas los antebrazos de ambos, puedes notar que
las comisuras de los labios están más alargadas.
La próxima vez que veas un video de algún candidato,
juntos somos más fuertes.
Independent initiatives such as the media-led Verificado 18 are equally important.
Bueno, espero que les haya servido de inspiración. Voy a estar dando un taller a la 1:30 en la sala Agosto. Les invito a sumarse y podemos hablar más en profundidad de Verificado 2018 y también del vídeo, digamos, producido específicamente para redes sociales. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Bueno, seguimos con el hashtag MediaParty, subiendo todo el tiempo. Y ahora viene el turno de Martín Zarzale, CTO de Properati, con su keynote Periodismo de Datos en una ex startup que no es un medio. Aplausos.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Bueno, como dijo Emiliano, yo soy Martín de Properati, soy el gerente de tecnología. Un poco la charla esta les venimos a contar por qué, bueno, vengo yo, pero en representación de mi equipo, a contar de cómo es que nosotros terminamos haciendo periodismo de datos en una startup que no es un medio. Me dijeron que el clicker es muy sensible, así que vamos a hacer esto con mucho cuidado. Perfecto. Bueno, primero de todo, ¿qué es Properati? Brevemente. Properati es un sitio para buscar casas. Tenemos casas, departamentos, nuevos, usados. en alquiler, en venta. Nosotros empezamos Properati hace unos 6 años con la idea de hacer explícita información que esté implícita. Entonces, si uno sabe más o menos lo que está buscando, se quiere mudar al barrio de su infancia, sabe bien dónde se está metiendo. Pero si uno se está metiendo, si uno está buscando en un barrio nuevo, en un barrio distinto, en otra ciudad, uno no sabe, bueno, y esta propiedad, tipo, está cerca del subte, está cerca de los colectivos, es una zona más bien residencial, más bien comercial. Lo que estoy viendo, ¿es caro o barato? Cuando uno ya está metido dentro de una búsqueda profunda, todo eso más o menos lo tiene claro, pero cuando está empezando no. Entonces nosotros queremos hacer explícita esa información. Entonces cuando vos haces una búsqueda, nosotros te mostramos, bueno, y entonces por acá cerca pasa el subte, o por ejemplo esta propiedad es un poco más cara que el promedio de la zona. Con esta información nosotros queremos que nuestros usuarios tengan puedan hacerle mejores preguntas a los vendedores. Digamos, no vayan a preguntar cosas que están publicadas, sino cosas que serían más o menos obvias, sino que tengan más data. Básicamente hicimos esto porque somos nerds y es lo que nosotros queríamos para nuestras búsquedas, por supuesto. Entonces, brevemente la historia de Properati es que, miren que fue muy rápido, se spoileó todo. Bueno, conseguimos unos inversores que pusieron plata, armamos un equipo de la puta madre, abrimos oficinas en Buenos Aires, en Chile, en México, llegamos a tener un montón de inmuebles publicados, teníamos 2 millones de inmuebles publicados en un momento, 1 millón de visitas por mes, era todo espectacular, pero teníamos un problema. El problema es que cuando nosotros empezamos a ver que en cada país donde estábamos, el sitio líder de propiedades era de un diario. Porque los diarios tenían el negocio de los clasificados en papel y los llevaron a la web. Entonces, en Argentina, Clarín tenía Argenprop, Clarín tiene Argenprop, La Nación tenía Zonaprop. Entonces, un poco lo que nos pasaba es que nosotros teníamos un producto que estaba buenísimo, hacíamos cosas, teníamos un montón de datos, hacíamos un montón de cosas re interesantes, pero nos costaba mucho conseguir que los diarios aparezcan perfiles de Properati, digamos, hablando de la empresa. Nos pasó, de hecho, un periodista que sacó una nota muy linda contando lo que hacíamos, con screenshot, fotos, estábamos muy contentos, salió publicado en La Nación. Unas horas después la nota estaba borrada. Bueno, porque evidentemente alguien le dijo, no, esto son competencia nuestra. Y el periodista dice, ¿cómo competencia nuestra? Nosotros somos un diario, yo soy un sitio de propiedad. No, somos un grupo y en nosotros parte del grupo es esta empresa Zonaprop, que es competencia de esta gente. Entonces, bueno, nada, borraron las notas. Entonces, nosotros agarramos y dijimos, esto tenemos que solucionarlo con... O sea, no teníamos plata para agarrar y pagar publicidad. Entonces dijimos, esto vamos a solucionarlo con nuestras herramientas. Nuestras herramientas básicamente eran... plata no teníamos. Entonces dijimos, bueno, empecemos a agarrar qué es lo que está disponible. Bueno, hay datos abiertos. Datos abiertos los abren los estados. No son fáciles de usar. Nosotros agarramos y teníamos programadores. Para nosotros no era difícil. Entonces, los datos abiertos eran gratis, los empezamos a agregar al sitio y enriquecerlo. Empezamos a publicar datasets de Properati. Es decir, agarrábamos y le sacábamos una foto a nuestra base de datos y la publicábamos. Esto lo llamamos difusión nerd. Todos los nerds les interesaban estos datos. Entonces, por ejemplo, hay una persona muy importante de esta media party que buscaba una casa, no le gustaban los filtros de Properati, se bajó nuestros datasets, le aplicó sus propios filtros y encontró su casa. Bueno, esto es difusión nerd. Y empezamos a trabajar en producción de contenido original del mundo inmobiliario. Hace años y años se escribe, nosotros empezamos a hacerlo con un punto de vista distinto. De esta concretamente es lo que yo les vengo a hablar ahora. Nosotros empezamos con nuestros datos, con nuestros cerebritos, con nuestras ideas, con nuestras cosas que se nos iban ocurriendo, empezamos a generar contenido. Quizás nos conozcan del platanómetro. En primavera, los plátanos, esos árboles que tienen esa bola tremenda completamente alergénica, caen, las bolas explotan, las redes sociales empiezan a llenarse de gente alérgica, ciclistas que se les clavan en los ojos, estas cosas. Es un momento muy fuerte. Desarrollamos el platanómetro con datos de la ciudad, mostramos dónde están los plátanos concentrados, entonces para que uno pueda evitarlo. Pones la dirección ahí y te decimos qué tan grave es el ataque de los plátanos en tu barrio. Hicimos barrios que quieren ser otros, donde agarramos y desnudamos las trampitas de los que ponen propiedades en venta y dicen que están en un barrio y en realidad están en otro. Entonces es un mapa interactivo, vos pasás con el mouse por encima y nosotros te mostramos propiedades que dicen estar en un barrio, pero en realidad están en otro. Esto lleva un poco a lo que es la palermización de la ciudad, o si quieren, nuevos barrios que se generan, como por ejemplo Chacalermo. Hicimos también una palabra por barrio donde graficamos, donde encontramos y graficamos cuál es la palabra que más se repite, la palabra característica que más se repite en los avisos de cada barrio. Entonces esto da, por ejemplo, que en Palermo lo que más se repite es solarium, y entonces porque en los terrazas les dicen solarium en Palermo. Entonces en Puerto Madero lo que más se repite es seguridad, porque bueno, seguridad a las 24 horas, garita de seguridad, o en Colegiales, la palabra que, en Chacarita la palabra que más se repite es Palermo, porque es cerca de Palermo, a 2 cuadras de Palermo o directamente en Palermo. Hicimos otras cosas, por ejemplo, buscamos si había una correlación entre los votos a cada partido y el precio por metro cuadrado, que es muy interesante y daba espectacular. Estas son unas elecciones en la ciudad, porcentaje de votos del PRO versus precio por metro cuadrado. Hicimos un mapa 3D de la ciudad con las alturas de las distintas parcelas, que es navegable y es muy lindo, es muy divertido. Todo esto lo fuimos haciendo con datos nuestros, con nuestra imaginación, con nuestros programadores, y funcionó muy bien porque, bueno, los medios empezaron a levantar esto. Ya no hablaban de Properati, sino que hablaban de lo que hacía Properati. Nos fue muy bien, aparecimos en un montón de medios, aparecimos en Clarín, aparecimos en Reuters, aparecimos un montón en La Nación. Aparecí yo en la tele hablando de plátanos y alergias, una cosa que no tenía sentido porque yo quería hacer otra cosa. Sacamos todos los meses un reporte donde vamos mostrando cómo van aumentando las propiedades, y tenemos, este es muy importante, este es nuestro orgullo, esta nota de tapa de crónica de las expensas. Nosotros cuando... Paren, Nosotros, metiéndonos adentro y empezando a trabajar con los periodistas, empezamos a entender mejor cómo funcionaban las redacciones y qué es lo que las redacciones necesitaban. Entonces empezamos a ir un paso más allá. Y en vez de desarrollar contenido nosotros y pasárselo a los medios, empezamos a trabajar con los medios desarrollando productos juntos. Entonces, con la gente de Apertura hicimos un valuador. Nosotros en Properati tenemos cientos de miles de propiedades publicadas, entonces lo que podemos hacer es podemos agarrar y estimar para Properati cuánto vale una propiedad. Uno pone algunos datos básicos, por ejemplo, los metros que tiene una propiedad, la cantidad de ambientes, la ubicación exacta. Nosotros te decimos, para nosotros esta propiedad vale entre tanto y tanto. Es muy divertido porque si uno tiene que renegociar su alquiler, por ejemplo, que uno tiene idea cuánto le va a costar, directamente entras ahí, pones el precio de las propiedades y nosotros te mostramos, para nosotros este alquiler vale 10.000 pesos y te mostramos unos comparables. Está buenísimo para nuestros usuarios. Pero además hay todo un ángulo que es interesante, que es el que esto es para los negocios. Si yo tengo una cantidad de plata, yo soy un inversor y tengo una cantidad de plata para invertir, te puedo decir, bueno, compro algo más grande en un barrio más barato o compro algo más chico en un barrio más caro. ¿Y qué tiene mejor retorno de la inversión? No es fácil de saberlo. Entonces con el evaluador uno, por ejemplo, puede evaluar propiedades sintéticas, propiedades que no existen. Entonces dice, si yo me comprara si hay un edificio en construcción en Palermo y uno en Villa Crespo, ¿cuál me conviene comprar? ¿Cuál hoy me daría mayor alquiler, mayor retorno de mi inversión? Esto lo hicimos con Apertura, entonces esto estuvo linkeado desde el menú principal de Apertura por unos años. La verdad es que funcionó muy bien, tuvo un éxito espectacular. En estos 2 años entraron 400.000 personas, hubo más de 350.000 propiedades valuadas. Es un número enorme. Para ellos estaba buenísimo porque para el mundo de los negocios tenía mucho sentido una herramienta así. Para nosotros no habíamos pensado del todo ese ángulo y entonces esto que hicimos en conjunto funcionó espectacular. Con Página 12 hicimos ¿cuál es tu barrio? Donde nosotros te hacemos preguntas y una especie de Akinator, te vamos haciendo preguntas y sobre datos duros del barrio, datos duros de los barrios, datos que tenemos de Properati, datos que son públicos, te vamos guiando a ayudarte a elegir cuál es el barrio donde vos deberías vivir. Entonces te preguntamos si te interesa las bicisendas, si vos necesitas tomarte el subte, si preferís barrios donde hay más escuelas públicas o más escuelas privadas, y llegamos a darte una conclusión. A veces la gente está contenta, a veces no están nada contentos con lo que les dio y están disconformes y quieren discutir. Nosotros estuvo en la home de Página 12 por un fin de semana largo, creo, por el estilo, y tuvimos 100.000 usuarios en una semana con 3 minutos 20 de sesión promedio, que para nosotros estaba muy bien. Es divertido y te vamos llevando por un camino. Y después con Infobae hicimos una calculadora de créditos hipotecarios, donde nosotros los créditos hipotecarios suban, la primer cuota se parece bastante a los alquileres. Entonces nosotros te preguntamos a vos cuánto estás pagando de alquiler ahora y te decimos cuántos metros podrías comprarte en los barrios de la ciudad y pagando una cuota similar a lo que es tu alquiler ahora. Está bueno porque hay un momento donde, sobre todo donde los alquileres van subiendo demasiado de precio, donde la primer cuota de los créditos UBA pasa a ser muy competitiva, entonces es interesante y queda muy claro acá. Esto tuvo 42.000 usuarios en una semana, con 4 minutos una sesión promedio de 4 minutos. La gente nos conoce. Y nos fuimos haciendo conocidos en gran parte por todo esto. Nosotros nunca tuvimos plata para gastar en poner carteles por la ciudad diciendo esto es Properati, sino que nos hicimos conocidos un poco por lo que hacíamos nosotros y, digamos, medio por nuestro mejor lado, digamos. No es que te decimos que somos geniales, sino que hacemos cosas que la gente decide que son geniales. Esto tengo que hacerlo con... Ay, mira lo que pasó. Espera, chic. Ahí está. Ay. Un minuto. Espera. Ting, espera, pasa. Sí, dale, pasa un par. Ping. Ahí está. Hasta acá, listo, ya está, Nico. Bien. Nosotros en todos estos años construimos un producto que era distinto a los demás. Lo hicimos con datos nuestros, con cosas que nosotros íbamos consiguiendo y con muchas cosas que nosotros fuimos desarrollando. Nosotros conseguimos tener una difusión enorme sin tener unos recursos enormes para difusión. Sobre todo realmente fueron cosas que salieron de nosotros y de nuestros equipos. Nosotros hace unos meses OLX Group compró Properati. Entonces un poco es lo que veníamos haciendo nosotros, pero sobre los hombros de un gigante. Para nosotros estamos muy enganchados con esto porque es básicamente, sigan haciéndolo, pero ahora tienen muchos más recursos. Entonces, Colombia, Ecuador y Perú, agárrense porque vamos para allá. Gracias. Para nosotros, la Media Party fue clave históricamente, y yo quiero decir esto porque realmente la Media Party nos inspira. Cuando escribimos este slide decíamos, es un poco exagerado poner nos inspira, es un poco marketinero, pero la verdad es que nos inspiró. La verdad es que las primeras cosas que hicimos con mapas salieron de un workshop de la Media Party de D3 y mapas que dio Bald Power, que está por acá. Romina Coleman nos enseñó a hacer pedidos de acceso a la información. Andy Tow y los mapas electorales. Hay 100 cosas que nosotros aprendimos de esto que usamos para construir este producto y realmente, hay cosas que a veces las historias terminan bien y a veces terminan mal. Nuestra historia bien espectacular y en gran parte todo lo que nos fue bien es por todo lo que aprendimos nosotros acá. Entonces, para nosotros la Media Party es clave y estamos muy contentos de estar una vez más acá. Nosotros dimos 2 keynotes, creo que debemos haber estado en varias de las media ferias, dimos 2 o 3 workshops. La verdad es que para nosotros estar acá es espectacular, organizar esto es espectacular, participar de esto es espectacular. Entonces, disfruten lo que queda y muchas gracias.
We wanted to know how the ones that are using headphones are hearing the translation. Yes, good. Estamos bien de sonido.
Seguimos. Emily. Seguimos con el hashtag. Tuiteando todos. ¿Cómo se está escuchando los auriculares? ¿Bien? ¿También? No veo. Salón. ¿Está todo bien? Sí, bueno, parece que está bien. Ok.
Voy a poner los anteojos porque traté de acordarme de memoria cuando la presentaba Alba y metí la pata, así que bueno, vamos a hacernos cargo de la edad. Bueno, y ahora viene Emily Goligoski, ¿sí? Que es la directora de investigación de The Membership Puzzle Project, que es una colaboración entre un proyecto de Ámsterdam, en Holanda, que se llama The Correspondent, y NYU University, ¿no? Que bueno, que tratan de buscar que las noticias sean confiables. Bienvenida, Emily. Y se queda el fin de semana y pidió tips de qué recorrer, así que después cuando sale y la ven recorriendo ahí por el patio del Konex, se pueden acercar. Me gustó mucho tu presentación, qué interesante. Dicen, te recomiendo visitar tal cosa. ¿Ok? So I'm telling the audience to give you tips for your weekend. Okay. Un aplauso para Emily.
Gracias. We're so glad to be here. As Flor mentioned, I'm with the Membership Puzzle Project, which is a think tank based out of New York University Journalism School, and that was based on a founding principle, the idea that subscription and membership in news, while similar, actually are quite different. Subscription looks more like a product-based exchange. I give the New Yorker $100-some a year. They give me access to their digital archives and a copy of their print magazine in my mailbox each week. And the exchange ends there. What our project is really fascinated around is membership that looks more like contributing to a cause because you believe in it. So that could look like contributing to an educational institution, a political cause, etc. And we are highly fascinated with the social contract, what is given and received on each side. And we work with news organizations around the world to really think about what is it that they offer their supporters and exchange in exchange, what do those individuals contribute, their time, their money, their energy, their ideas. We take a very human-centered design approach to this work. And inspired by our partner newsroom, Day Correspondent, out of the Netherlands, we really think about what we might be able to offer the industry that is an antidote to the way that news usually operates. And so our research team works in ways that are agile, that are fast, and that keep users at the center. I'm going to talk today specifically about one component of our research work, and that is talking to supporters of independent news directly to understand what they value. So this is qualitative research that we've conducted with news organizations around the world to understand what are people's points of frustration and what do they need in news that is well worth paying for. This is just a quick snapshot of what these conversations look like. We sit down and have meals with supporters, with editorial teams, with developers, designers, all to have really candid conversations about what works and what doesn't. And I want to report back 6 themes that we've heard based on these conversations. And I should quickly mention that there is very high cross-cultural consistency in the supporters we talk to, no matter what region of the world they're in. The first thing, we hear a lot about the idea that something is broken. We hear a point of distinct frustration when we kick off these conversations. We hear that not only in news, but in places that we bank online, where we connect with friends, that something is profoundly out of alignment. And membership is one way to begin to restore the social contract. When it comes to news, what this brokenness looks like is following stories of the day and not offering much that's new or of unique value. We hear a lot about the request for work that goes deep and with more integrity. And so if there's one thing that you take away from this morning, let it be this, that your supporters want you to do the things that you are distinctly good at, to bring them the coverage that only you can do, even if that means scaling back on the stories of the day that every other site is piling onto. One site that does this incredibly well is the Daily Maverick in South Africa. And they have a reader covenant on their site that I think is just a fantastic document that really spells out, if you're a participant in this community, we expect you to use your real name. We expect you to contribute what you know. It's a very straightforward document, but one that I'm eager to see more sites really model their work off of. The second thing we hear is the importance of having many different ways to participate. So, traditionally, at least in the United States, the way that you can give your time and expertise is by answering phones on a public radio pledge drive. Increasingly, we hear people say that they want to contribute their personal experience, their lived experience, and their professional expertise. So what that can look like is readers, listeners, and viewers of your coverage who contribute what they know, just as we see ProPublica is an amazing example of what this looks like to engage the experiences of the individuals who follow your work. And increasingly, we see more newsrooms start to offer educational training, whether it's into video editing, the ethics of investigative reporting, and the like. And this really stands out in sharp distinction. So the Ferret is an investigative newsroom in Scotland that hosts weekly fact-checking nights in their newsroom on Sunday evenings. And this is not busy work. The intention is that it really is training and substantive work that readers and members can contribute to help with investigations that then go live on the site. And the intention with reporters coming in to work on a Sunday night is not that these individual supporters then become professional journalists. Some of them will have their interests piqued in that way, but that's not the real goal. The idea behind this kind of involvement, in-person, high-touch, highly valuable, is that it demystifies the work that journalists do. I've been really struck as we visit news organizations and talk to their supporters around the world, the low levels of literacy that we encounter and just how opaque we have made our work. And so I hope that you'll hear this as a call to make the work of journalism less opaque, to bring people into it, and by showing how they can contribute to it. Sometimes that's as moderators of online comments, sometimes that's as technical proofreaders, event programmers, and many, many more ways that people can be involved. We hear a lot about the importance of transparency and trust, as you would expect. News organizations that stand out, supporters tell us, are those that are very forthcoming about who's behind the work. And in turn, that means that supporters can name more than one or two people behind the organization. They're clear about ways that you can contribute, and here we look a lot at open source software projects, and what would it look like for journalism basically to have noob bugs that people could contribute to if they're brand new to contributing to reporting, but are eager to get underway. And then finally, where they're coming from. So really showing what your reporter's background is, what made them choose to undertake their beat in the first place, and what the goal is of their work, which is something that we very often take for granted, the expectation that we're publishing in the public interest, but being more straightforward about what that looks like and how individuals can participate along that process, not just involving them once work is published and expecting that they'll help share it. All of this work is really centered in the idea that we can bring people into the editorial process sooner and more often. Day Correspondent, our newsroom partner, does this really well with individual correspondent newsletters each week. So this is in addition to the outlet-wide weekly email newsletter. And it's a direct chance for individual correspondents to talk to people who care about their beat. And it's decidedly not self-promotional. It's very humble, actually, and it's very vulnerable. Reporters will say to their readers, here are 3 things that I'm thinking of working on. What should I know? What else should I be thinking about? What sources should I talk to? I'm going to run through the rest of these very quickly because I'm getting some signals that I should start to wrap things up. We hear a lot about the importance of humility, correcting yourself when you're wrong, asking for help when you need it. What the Fuck Just Happened Today, which is a Trump News Today site out of the US, is an amazing example of this. Here, Matt Keyser, the publisher of the site, is thanking the grammar police mafia, basically people who have volunteered as proofreaders for the site. Day Correspondent does a great job of now, down to the euro cent, publishing exactly how its members' money is spent annually, and I would like to see more examples of this, of transparency into finances. Last 2 things. We hear a lot about the importance of a calming user experience. The importance of make good use of my attention. Let me do the thing that I came to your site to do, whether that's pay you, connect with other members, make sense of a complex news topic. And then finally, working always and only in the public interest. We're having a workshop this afternoon. If these topics are of interest to you, if you want to be thinking about writing a manifesto for and with your members, please join us this afternoon. And one thing we'll really be looking to uncover is, are you designing a community or are you designing a paid club? Those are different things. They can coexist, but let's really look under the hood and get to work for you. Thank you.
Bueno, ¿podemos presentar? Bueno, voy a sacar la cartera. Bueno, ahora vamos a presentar a Aaron Pilhofer, que los que estuvieron temprano saben que es uno de los fundadores de Hackers Internacional. Y yo como miembro de la Nación Data soy súper fan, hace muchos años que lo seguimos a Aaron, desde que estaba en New York Times en The Guardian, y ahora que está a cargo de innovación en la Universidad de Temple. Y dice que tiene una solución para la innovación en periodismo, ¿no? Que se llama, vamos a leer, Press Pass, ¿sí? Y que bueno, tiene algo que ver con los plomeros, dice. Así que bueno, vamos a darle un fuerte aplauso a Aaron, que ya es una figurita, ¿no? Que si no está en la Media Party pasó algo raro porque está viniendo muchísimo a Buenos Aires, nos quiere, así que un fuerte aplauso.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm glad to be back. This is my second time here at this event, my third time in Buenos Aires this year. I love coming down here. I love this event. Mariano, who is amazing, told me yesterday, actually, when we were chatting, that the last time I came down here, I guess I had a very depressing presentation. I sort of brought the whole room down. Sorry about that. Really hope that doesn't happen again. In fact, I'm here to actually talk about something incredibly upbeat, very optimistic and forward-looking today. I'm here to talk about Press Pass, but first, no, sorry, that's not there. Press Pass is what I'm here to talk about. It's a project that it's right now sort of unofficially called Press Pass. It's just a name that's kind of stuck in my head, and I've been obsessing about this idea now for on the mat about 6 months, and I wanted to talk about it down here, even though we haven't launched. I'm about to throw my body on that. Okay. Even though it hasn't launched yet and won't for some time, I wanted to talk about it down here because it was actually born here in a way. I was down here earlier this year for a Google event, and that's where I started actually talking about this idea with other human beings. And to my surprise and delight, people thought it was a really good idea. And so that's what I want to kind of talk to you about today. Press Pass in a nutshell is a modest proposal. It is a network of every journalist everywhere in the world and what we can do with such a platform. But before I talk about what it is, I want to talk about what it is not. Press Pass is not some kind of mega global membership organization. In fact, it's not meant to do that at all. If anything, it's meant to help journalists connect with one another and help membership organizations be more effective around the world. It's also not a global directory of every journalist on the planet. That's not at all the goal here. It is something else entirely. It's actually very simple. It's three things. It's identity, it's authentication, and entitlement. Identity, who am I? Where do I work? What membership organizations do I belong to? What have I written? Any other metadata about me that might be relevant to who I am as a journalist. Authentication. How can I prove my identity to other people in the world? How can they be sure I am who I say I am? And entitlement. Based on those two things, what do I as a journalist have access to? How can I access these resources easily? And so let me talk about a little bit of the genesis of this. So another side project of mine is a platform called Document Cloud, which I hope most of you know about. If you don't, talk to me about it. Document Cloud is a tool for journalists. It's a tool to help journalists work with source documents. And I took the project back last year after not having run it for about 5 years. And we were in a crisis. We were almost out of money. And so I needed to step back and take a strategic look and say, how can we ensure that Document Cloud is around forever? And so I started looking at what are the assets that Document Cloud has. And one of the things Document Cloud has are an enormous amount of users, about 20,000 accounts globally, about 2,000 organizations. We've been around about 10 years. And that's like, that community is special. No other organization has built that sort of a community around the world. And so I started thinking, well, how can we kind of like leverage that? What can we connect our users to that already isn't just about documents? And I started thinking about other things. And so you might be familiar with Quackbot. We built this with Quartz. It's a project where it's basically a Slack bot. You can invite it into your Slack, into your team's Slack, and it does useful things for journalism. I won't talk about it much, but we built it using Document Cloud's authentication system. So if you have a Document Cloud account, you have immediate and easy access. There's no friction to include Quackbot. And that got me thinking, that's actually a kind of a powerful idea. So I was talking to a friend of mine, Duncan Clark, who runs a wonderful startup called Flourish. You may or may not be familiar with Flourish, but it's an incredible platform for infographics and interactive content. And he's brand new, based out of London, just trying to get traction right now, just trying to get people to know what Flourish even is. And it occurred to me, well, hell, we have a bunch of users who could really use a tool like Flourish, who probably don't know about Flourish. And Flourish would love to be able to put its service in front of a bunch of users who could really use it. So I thought, well, maybe there's a way of using, again, Document Cloud's authentication to give access to third-party platforms like Flourish. And by the way, here is one of the saddest slides I've ever made in my life. If you're a journalist, there's a massive problem with discovery. How do I find out about all of these amazing tools that are available to me? You might never have heard of Flourish, or maybe you have heard of Flourish, but I can guarantee you probably haven't heard that Google has given them some money to make Flourish free for newsrooms. How would you even know this? This is a picture I took at the Global Editors Network. They had a little booth. You can see they're free for newsrooms. That's how journalists tend to discover these things. It's a little bit crazy, it's a little bit analog, and I think I have a better way of solving this. So that got me to the point where I was like, well, you know, maybe the solution here is to just take the user piece out and make it a separate thing. And that's kind of where I came to PressPass. So technically, this is a really easy thing to do. I mean, it's not easy, but this is a solved problem. This is a diagram of how OAuth works. It's basically how Google Login works. You've all probably used Google Login or something like it. You go to a website. You can log in using your credentials from Google to that website. Then there's a process where you submit your credentials. Those credentials are sent to Google. Google says, yep, this is who you think it is, and then you are authenticated on that third-party site. And there's metadata that travels with that. Sometimes that site asks you for additional information. We want your email address. We want stuff like that. So that is a process that's a known thing. It's technically very easy to do. PressPass is not a project that's going to be hard on the technical side. It's going to be hard on the human side. It's going to be hard getting people, and especially publishers, involved. And this is where I need your help. So a little plug ski right now. I'll be doing a very short, it'll be almost, we'll call it a workshop, but it's more probably, we'll call it a group brainstorm about how we might take Press Pass and make it into the thing that, the vision that I'm talking about right now, this global network of journalists. And this is how it might work if you're a membership organization or if you're the New York Times or some other publisher. Let's say the New York Times wants to give its staff access to a bunch of third-party platforms, Quackbot, Flourish, Document Cloud, Harken. Right now, each of those organizations maintains its own user management and authentication systems. You have to have a password for each one. There's no easy way to integrate all of those 4 things. And there's certainly no easy way for the New York Times to say, hey, I want to bundle those together and give my staff easy access to that. Using PressPass, easy peasy. That's the entitlement piece. You're a New York Times reporter. We've verified that you're a New York Times employee. So therefore, you can log in to those services via that. Investigative reporters and editors, a membership organization. Membership organizations, they struggle with this sort of thing right now. We are approached all the time by membership organizations who want to give their members some sort of preferential treatment, some sort of benefit. They want into Document Cloud. They want to say, hey, you become a member with us, and then you could get some sort of special access to Document Cloud. Right now, that's a very manual process. When somebody comes and applies, and they say, yeah, I'm a member of blah, 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 we have to then get on the phone or send an email and say, is this person an actual member? Yes, they are. It's a very manual, very analog process. Through PressPass, trivial. The platforms are doing more and more with journalists, giving journalists access to tools like CrowdTangle in the case of Facebook. In the case of Google, giving access to journalists, things like Flourish, but also access to their own tools. I can guarantee you the last organization on earth that wants to be in the business of deciding who is and isn't a journalist are the platforms. So also through a system like PressPass, we could do this for them. For a journalist, it might look a little like this. This obviously is very poorly designed, but you get the idea. You might log into PressPass and have a sort of a dashboard to solve that discovery problem. You might be looking for, hey, I need to know more about how to do infographics. I need a tool to do infographics and interactives. You might never have heard of Flourish, but if Flourish is part of the network, it might be surfaced through a system like this. You might be able to say things like, I would like to know anytime there's a training related to data journalism within 5 miles of where I am, and we could ping you with that information. You can see how, once you have this network in place, getting journalists and resources to one another becomes a lot easier. This actually exists in the world, by the way. There's a system very much like this. I'm not making all this up out of whole cloth. It's called ORCID. In the academic world, there's a great, it's super important to know whether an author of a journal article is who he or she says they are, and to be able to know whether those people have been cited in other academic articles. So ORCID has been in existence for a long time. It does many of the same kinds of things that I'm talking about. So there are models for this in the world. Here are some of the other ways you might take PressPass and use it. Training. You might offer discounts and offers to different kinds of services and third-party services. Skills sharing. Creating environments where journalists can help one another. Where journalists can share their skills with one another outside of events, maybe even like this one, or in collaboration with an event like this one. Events like this one. You know, I don't know how many conferences I go to every year, but every one of them has a different system for getting people into the room, for registration, for all that. Those are the kinds of services, those third-party services that we can connect together once we have a network like this in place. Internships, fellowships, on and on and on, different kinds of ways that journalists might be able to help themselves. One area that I want to focus on in particular, though, is diversity in hiring. We talk a lot, particularly in the US, about the lack of diversity in newsrooms. It's a significant problem that is totally solvable, but we don't actually solve, unfortunately. Using a network like this, you could build a system that would allow you to do recruiting and targeting and find candidates and create a far more diverse candidate pool. This is one way to do that is by using a blind audition system. There's a lot of platforms out there doing this, particularly in the tech world. We should bring that into the newsroom, where people are given a test. They're given an ability, a test, edit this story. And it's not even revealed until the candidate is brought into the interview. Their gender, their ethnicity isn't even part of the discussion. Yes, of course we have to talk about fake news and synthetic media. One thing you can do once you have a unique ID for you, the journalist, is you could digitally sign your content. This is right now, this is a little speculative and forward-looking. But if we think fake news is a problem, fake content could be an even bigger problem. And the platforms are really worried about this. So publishers might want ways in the very near future to say, this content was written by this person, and we know that because this ID is attached to this piece of content, it was published on this day, and here's a checksum that will tell you that this content hasn't been manipulated or changed or altered since publication. One thing you should know, this has to be default to privacy by design. We're going to be creating a very large data set with a lot of personal information in it, and that information has to be held, and it has to be held in a way that is not revealing it to the world unless the person wants it revealed. You would control your data. It would not be, again, we're not creating a global database of every journalist on the planet. Collaboration is another space. Margaret Sullivan, Jeff mentioned her piece yesterday. Margaret Sullivan wrote about the need to be more collaborative, and I think she's right. And right now, we don't have any tools for that, and that's why I talk about the plumbing. PressPass is the plumbing that can bring that together, make those collaborative environments happen. And finally, I think this is something that we need to do for ourselves. We can't wait for the platforms to do this for us. We can't wait for the Googles of the world to do this for us. We need to sit down and say, we as an organization, we as journalists need to start banding together and do this for ourselves. So PressPass, to be super clear about this, will be an NGO. It will be governed as an NGO. It will not seek profit. It will seek sustainability. And it will have one mission, and that is to improve journalism. If you're interested, I'd love to hear from you. That's my contact information, and thank you very much.
¿Vamos bien? ¿Sí? Bueno, ahora vamos a hablar de blockchain. Los que vinieron temprano saben que alguien se ganó una remera por explicarnos en un minuto qué significa blockchain. Pero bueno, ahora lo vamos a tener a Daniel Siebert. Un aplauso para Daniel. Periodista hace más de 20 años, ¿sí? Que fundó startup de blockchain, trabajó en Google News Lab y en otros medios como CBS News, CNN, ABC News, Vancouver Sun. And you are from Canada?
I am from Canada, and I can barely speak English, let alone French or Spanish. So thank you for being patient with me.
Un aplauso y vamos.
Gracias, gracias. Buenos dias. It is wonderful to be with all of you here today. So the subject of my presentation, and I think I can see people. There's a light. When you're up on stage here, you don't know that the light is right in your face. So I'm going to try to peek out here every so often. So the subject of my presentation is blockchain. Blockchain, cryptocurrency, which I'm sure most people here in this room have heard something about, whether it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, some friends of yours who tried to convince you that it was worth buying some, a token you heard about, maybe even a project that was related to supporting journalism. So I've spent the past year on something of a journey. And I'm here to share with you what I have learned in the past year about blockchain, trust, journalism, and consumers. So, a little bit about me here. I'm currently between contracts, which is what my dad says when he's unemployed. That's sort of another way to think about it. So, let's talk about what is trust? What does trust look like in the digital age? You know, we are still, I think everybody in this room is a human. I know we've been talking about bots and about technology and about automated processes, about efficiency, optimization. As somebody who worked at Google for several years, I deeply understand and appreciate these concepts and the importance that they have in the ecosystem of how anybody consumes technology. Human beings are wonderful at all kinds of things, and I would argue that we should continue to give ourselves that credit as human beings, meaning we can have substantive conversations with each other. You don't actually need a bot for that, just as a reminder. You could find a friend, a loved one, a colleague. You don't have to go to a bot, I hope. But yes, they can, of course, make all sorts of interactions more interesting, faster. You can get information in ways you couldn't before. Blockchain and the idea of it is about distributing trust. So I'm going to try to break down some of the terminology that people might hear when they think about blockchain or cryptocurrency and all of these buzzwords, and everybody gets caught up in the technical aspects of it. And I know, and I suspect that a lot of you here in this room are focused on technology. You're developers. You think about sort of the cutting edge of all of this. And as a reporter who covered science and technology my entire career for 20 years, that's how I thought too. Look ahead, the future, what's next, what's out there, what's innovative. So blockchain speaks to people in journalism, I think, because of its focus on trust. And if everybody who's attached to journalism is worried about trust, if that's the core issue of what we're talking about, trust, do our readers trust us? Do we trust the sources we're talking to? Do we trust the institutions that are talking to us about whatever it is that they're doing? Do we trust the centralized entities like Google or Facebook or Twitter or whoever to put our best interests ahead of profits and money and revenue and growing a user base? What about us? What about what matters to us, right? Speaking now as everybody in this room, we're all a citizen of the world. We're all consuming news. We want what? The truth. So how do you get to the truth? How do you trust anybody in this room? Does blockchain solve trust? I'm going to leave that as a thought bubble right up here, and I would like all of you to just think about that. I have my own thoughts on it. I have some things I'm going to share with you to help kind of just get you thinking about what it means and how it works. But just leave that in your head for just a second. Okay. What do all the terms mean? What is this all about? Why do we have to learn a new language? Because that's what I've been doing for the past year. Remember how I said I can't speak Spanish or French? I can barely speak English. So now I'm trying to learn how to speak blockchain, which is an entirely other language of terms and concepts and ideas. So I'm not going to go through all of these because this isn't a lesson, okay? This is me sharing what I learned. But there are terms out there that really can be simplified in ways that I don't think that many people get an opportunity to consume. So blockchain is just a bunch of computers, okay? All talking to each other in different ways, trying to verify information. And when Aaron's talking about identity, and trying to create a database, a trusted database of journalists, right? I think that blockchain actually has a fantastic potential application for something like that. Because we're talking about permanence in blockchain, we're talking about a unique identity, and we're talking about something that could potentially travel with you through the web in lots of interesting ways. So I'm not going to, I love what Aaron is up to with PressPass, but just as a way to think about what does this mean? Decentralized, distributed, right? So if you think about Google or Facebook or Twitter or any other central banks, right? Take any centralized entity. They have centralized servers that all of our data runs through. Runs through it. They use it for whatever they need. They send you a newsletter. They ask you to get the latest, special bank account that gives you a discount on your checking, your checks that you write or something, or your fees. Okay, so they know a little bit about us, and we're okay with that because they have our money, right? Right? They have our money, actually. They have our money. Is everyone aware of that? The banks have your money. Okay, so you're trusting a bank. I don't know, what do I know about Chase Bank? Okay, that's my bank, Chase. Do I know anybody there personally? No, actually. Do I interact with them in any meaningful way other than a chatbot or a phone call to try to tell them that I was coming to Argentina? So they had to change my profile so I could use my credit card, my bank card. Okay, that's it. But I've given them all my money. Wow. That's kind of amazing, right? I don't know, just as a thought, as you think about who you trust and why, all of your money is in your bank, all of it. So if people are unsure of how to trust a news organization or journalists, I think we have some work to do, right? What are the questions that people have on both sides of this coin? Journalists have questions about, how do I instill trust? Is it about more credibility indicators? Is it more about showing you that all of my work is right here? Transparency. Look, here's everything I did. Look, here's my notebook. Do you want to come with me? Hearken? Do you want to come with me and tell the story? Can I show you everything? What else do you want to know? Here are the people I talked to. Do you want to hear the recording from the interviews I did? I don't know. Like, what will help you to trust whatever I share with you? How transparent does a journalist have to be in this day and age with the truth? If it's the truth, then you shouldn't have to worry, in my opinion, so much about transparency. I'm sorry I'm being a little bit provocative here this morning. But the point is that the truth is ultimately what matters. And if everybody in this room who's a journalist, who's a practicing journalist, it's all I've ever known as a career. I was the editor of my high school yearbook. Went on to everything else, okay? If you know the truth, you, each person here, not your editors, not the readers, not the people commenting on the stories, you, if you know the truth, shouldn't that be enough? I'm just asking, okay? Just asking these questions. So then you have citizens, people out there, who are journalists, right? Going back to Press Pass, who are they? You know, what are their motivations? Are you writing these stories to try to stir up trouble? Journalists, right? Opinions, thoughts, ideas, stuff people don't like to hear, right? Remember the truth? Remember that expression, the truth hurts, the truth matters? Sometimes people don't like to hear the truth. But that doesn't mean that journalists or we should shy away from telling the truth, period. Sorry, okay. So what is blockchain good for when it comes to journalism? So I mentioned identity. Governance, tokens, okay? As you leave here today, and if you're interested in blockchain and cryptocurrency, and by the way, this isn't going away, in my opinion. It's not a trend, okay? This is a reaction to how the web has a centralized, or the web was very distributed in the beginning, but then evolved to become much more centralized, and I think this is a bit of a course correction for what's happened for everybody. So governance, this is about putting tokens, votes, your voice into the hands of you all, citizens, people. What matters? What if you had a token, a vote, and you could vote on some aspect of journalism? I don't know exactly what it is. I don't have all the answers, to be clear. But just thinking about, what if you could create a vote, a vote that is attached to you, your identity, your voice? Okay. Storage. The idea of blockchain and distributed networks is that because there are vast numbers of computers in blockchain networks, the information is distributed across all of them eventually, meaning that it's like trying to get rid of every copy of the newspaper. If you tried to get every copy of La Nación that went out today and tried to remove every single one of them, could you do it? No, of course not. So, same idea with blockchain. That's what permanence is about. That's the idea that the content is immutable, cannot be altered or changed. And I think that adds a lot to transparency, if that's what we're interested in, where you can see updates, a log, what's the latest version of the story, did we make a correction, can we push that content to the blockchain? That doesn't mean that everybody can see it all the time, it just means that it's there. So the UX in all of this, for designers out there, needs a ton of work, so please help on that. Licensing, syndication. Blockchain also offers an opportunity to fingerprint digital assets. So one of the biggest challenges for content creators, especially at scale, if you think about a wire service, is equitable monetization for creative content. I used to be a journalist, I was a freelancer, and I was, for a time in my career, I was a freelancer. And I always worried about, where did my content end up? Did somebody use this and I didn't get paid for it somewhere? And inevitably I'd get like a Google alert notification that something that I'd written or something would appear on somebody else's site, or a photo I came across, and I was always so annoyed. I had a good friend at Google when I worked there, Nick Whitaker. Some of you might know him, he's been here before, I think. He's a photographer. And it would just kill him to no end that his photos would appear on some silly, cheesy business site or something he never intended them for, because he also was a journalist before he joined Google. Okay, so licensing, syndication, curation. The idea that people could be incentivized through crypto economics to curate great quality journalism to share with people. This is something that Mark Little and Anya Kerr are working on. It's called Neva Labs. And the idea that people will become ethical curators and think about your time and what you're interested in and work with news organizations to do that. Membership models is a bit of a leap, but thinking about the idea that if you could incentivize people to become a member, so when we were listening earlier to Emily talk about the membership puzzle project, there's a question now, are there ways that cryptocurrency and blockchain could incentivize people to participate in any membership opportunity? I don't know, maybe. And identity, we've already covered when Aaron was up here. So what is this whole space about, blockchain and cryptocurrency? Is it a little scary out there? Are there enough skeptics in the room? I'll tell you what, when I started this journey a year ago, as somebody who's been in journalism for a long time, I have a healthy degree of skepticism. I am from Canada originally, so the optimism part often wins out. But I have a huge amount of skepticism when I hear things. That said, when I started to think about blockchain a year ago, I got all excited and enamored, and gosh, it could be this utopian future and it solves all kinds of things. Why wouldn't I want to just jump right in? Well, it turns out that those guys with the guns and people maybe you're not sure if you trust, they're still there. And their motivations are not entirely clear, necessarily. And they're a little bit new to the game of journalism. So maybe they need some help in just navigating this stuff, and maybe we all need to have our antenna up and remember that this is not a perfect space. There's an expression, garbage in, garbage out. Same thing with blockchain, okay? A big database. Put a bunch of shit in there, you get a bunch of shit out. Now, there are going to be regulators coming into this space. In the US, that's about the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. Can't get here fast enough. When will the sheriffs get in town? Where are the sheriffs, right? Blockchain, cryptocurrency, we all know there have been some stories of some pretty terrible stuff. People losing their money. Remember your money that you trusted to people? So I'm going to just mention a couple of blockchain-based organizations that are thinking about journalism. Poet being one. They're based in New York. They're thinking about that idea of licensing and syndication and trying to build a new database of content that can be properly and equitably monetized. Fascinating stuff. Proof. They're thinking about ways that cryptocurrency can incentivize people to help tackle misinformation. And they've got some really neat ideas on it. And what about the money? Remember the money part? Remember your money? Where does the money come from to fund all this stuff? All these new projects in blockchain and cryptocurrency, okay? VCs, people with deep pockets in the cryptocurrency community. What is their motivation? I ask myself sometimes. So I'm going to wrap up here with just a couple more thought bubbles. When you think about pursuing any new technology, as the person coming from the science and technology world, kind of sort of trying to be the guy from the future, not always having the best time, but learning, ask yourself why. Simon Sinek, one of my leadership gurus, start with why. Why do you need any new technology? If you can't answer that question to your own personal satisfaction, then you shouldn't be doing it. So here are just kind of a little bit of a crystal ball, right? Again, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict the future any more than anybody else, even though I love to spend time in it or tell myself that I'm in it. But think about some of these questions and some of the points that I'm illustrating to you. Aside from money, which we all have placed a great emphasis on, perhaps the most priceless and valuable commodity that exists in the world today that none of us have enough of, and we can never seem to get more, is time. So thank you all for your time here this morning, and muchas gracias.
Bueno, ¿cómo venimos? ¿Todo bien? Bueno, ahora que somos muchos, tuiteen todo ahora con el hashtag, ya, todo, están todos con el teléfono en la mano, todos un tweet ahora, con fotos, pidiendo que Blackman baile, no sé, algo. ¿Seguimos?
Sí, ahora les voy a presentar a Ann Xiao, que dirige el equipo de producto de Midan, que crearon Check, que es una plataforma para verificar en tiempo real las noticias, y que se usó Check para dos proyectos muy importantes de periodismo que ganaron premios, que fue Election Land, Google Lead, ¿no? Está muy bueno, y Crosscheck, ¿no? Que fue la verificación colectiva entre muchas redacciones de la elección en Estados Unidos, cuando ganó Trump. Y hoy nos va a venir a hablar de estándares, de la credibilidad del contenido online. Así que, bueno, bienvenida, Ann. ¿Le dan un aplauso?
Hola a todos, muchas gracias. Flor, actually, I wanted to call you back. I wanted to ask you a question. Before I talk about the strange cow, I wanted to talk about the mate emoji real quick. I know you'll be talking about it later with Jenny. Yeah. But can you tell us a little bit about what you had to do? How long was your proposal for the mate? What did it look like?
Oh, it took a lot of time, a couple of months. And the most difficult task we had, lo más difícil, was to decide which was going to be the cup, because we check the Uruguayan cup, how the Syrians drink mate, how the Paraguayans use another cup that is called guampa, how the Brazilians use another type of cup that is called cuilla. And we are not only having problems of cups, but also of color of yerba mate, because Brazilians and Uruguayans drink mate after it has been harvested, and Paraguayans, Argentinians, and Uruguayans drink mate after 2 years of letting rest the yerba, so it's much darker. Yeah. So it was very difficult to choose which was going to be the essence of our emoji.
It took a lot of work to build the standards.
Yes, a lot.
A lot of research.
Yes.
You had to figure out what the standard would look like, and then make a recommendation to the Unicode Symposium.
Yes, that was.
Right. And so I know you'll be talking about it more, but the mate emoji is a nice example of what I want to talk about today, and explain what this cow is about, but about what the importance of standards. Because what we're doing with the Credibility Coalition is thinking about standards for content credibility online. But to just go back a little bit, I want to talk about food. Because I'm sure many of us are familiar with food standards and nutrition labels. But how many of us have lived on a farm or spent time with a farm? Yeah, so my grandmother was a farmer, and you had a cow or you had a pig, and it might have looked different depending on where you are. But you had a cow, and you knew what kind of grass it ate, right? You knew exactly what it consumed, and so when you killed the cow, you knew what kind of meat you were eating. You knew the quality of your food, and so you knew the kind of pipeline that led to your body. You knew that you knew the quality of the grass, you knew the quality of the cow, you knew where it grew up, you knew how it spent its time, and then you knew what you were eating, putting inside your body. And it was good, right? But then something changed. For those of us living in cities, the industrialization of food has created distance between all this kind of modes of production. And so those who are developing the grains ship them on trucks. And those who are developing, who are raising the livestock, will ship those on trucks. The kind of chain is very different, and then that will be shipped in boxes. It'll go to a store, then you have to drive to the store, and then you have to figure out what you're eating and what you're putting inside your body. And so you didn't know. Especially at the beginning, you didn't know if what you were eating was good or if it was not so good. And so you had questions. And so, early on in early industrialization of food in the United States, there's a lot of misleading food. There's a lot of poor quality food out there, and people had very difficult time understanding what the quality of the food was and how to have a conversation about it. And so we developed standards. We developed ways of inspecting the process throughout the full chain. We developed kind of expertise around this. And so from there, we got nutrition labels. It's a very breezy introduction to nutrition labels. But it was through nutrition labels that we started to be able to have a conversation and understand what exactly was going on inside our food. So in the United States, this is what nutrition labels look like. You can see that there are different kind of ways that they're designed. They're different like words and terms. And so to understand what cholesterol is or what sodium is or what a carbohydrate is, you have to know what that is first. But then once you understand that, then you can kind of understand what exactly is inside the food. In the United Kingdom, there's a slightly different design, but they use color coding and they use different styles. But you can see they're emphasizing a lot of similar things: the fats, the calories, the servings. And then I was looking at this one when I was drinking my very healthy Pepsi here in Argentina with the nutrition label, and you can see again a lot of similarities. And so, regardless of where you are in the world, with the food that you're consuming, even though there are differences across the world with different styles of nutrition labels, you can see some commonalities. And so you can make evaluations and judgments about what you are consuming. And so why did we need nutrition labels? It was the decontextualization of food. It was the loss of context in food production that required the emergence of nutrition labels. And systems of assessment and for third-party assessment of how food is produced. And so it was through nutrition labels that we start to understand, reintroduce the context of how the food is produced and what's there. And it's not just nutrition labels, of course. There are organic labels, there are kosher labels. There are many ways that we label our foods to understand the context in which it's produced, because we don't know that context anymore. This is happening now with information. There's a rising tide of vaccine skepticism in the United States, in Europe, throughout the world, that is leading to a number of public health outbreaks. This is one study that we looked at with the Credibility Coalition, it's a Johns Hopkins researcher releases shocking report on flu vaccines, shared over 1 million times across social media. It's just one of many articles and memes and videos that raise skepticism about vaccines. It turns out this researcher is not an expert in vaccines, but is an anthropologist. And it turns out that a lot of vaccine misinformation is built largely off of one study that was conducted and debunked many years ago, but then has been decontextualized and then repackaged and then spread throughout the internet. And this study links the idea that vaccines cause autism and can now be connected to over tens of thousands of cases of measles throughout the world because of rising skepticism about vaccines. So again, the decontextualization of information of that scientific journal, the fact that it's very difficult to understand when and how it was conducted, that it was debunked, and then how it's been then proliferated across the internet through memes, videos, articles, is a contributing factor, not the only factor, but a contributing factor in the rising vaccine skepticism around the world. And so this raises a question, and this is a question we're going to work through in the workshop that I'll do with Dwight Nell this afternoon at 4 o'clock, is to ask a question: what might a nutrition label look like for information quality? What are the basic building blocks? When you think about the emphasis on calories versus sugars, what are the things you want to redesign and emphasize? What are the things that really matter? If you're Jewish and you're thinking about kosher labels, is it more about the social relationship you have with your rabbi? These are big questions, and it's very difficult, as Flor noted with the mate emoji, to find a standard. It's going to take a while, but we want to do a design thinking workshop to really think through that and what that looks like. And this is not a new idea, just to emphasize. Sally Lehrman at the Trust Project has built a series of what she calls trust indicators that a publication can apply to itself to communicate to readers and then have that data expressed through platforms. And she analogizes that to nutrition labels. Amy Webb, who's a futurist, has talked about how articles could have transparent labels. This is where the information came from, who touched the story. This is truthiness, this is verification, it could be automated. There are different ways that we might standardize that process to make this content more clear. And Matt Stempek at the Civic Media Center even had a really kind of conceptual design about nutrition facts. And so you can see here the time it might take. You can see the opinion time that's in the article. Is it 30% partisan, 36% partisan rhetoric, 22% advertising, 2% cited sources? It was a speculation at the time. He made it back in 2011. But he brought up an important point, is that the rollout of nutrition labels on food packaging, it didn't force individuals to eat differently, but it provided critical dietary information for those consumers who sought it. So it's a nice balance between kind of censoring becoming the thought police of the internet and the other extreme, which is the misinformation proliferating on the web, is that maybe providing context can be a way to kind of strike this balance and provide a more kind of healthier options for the content online. And so what can standards about information quality help us accomplish? It's a question that I think we've thought through with nutrition, and it's still an unsolved problem, as I demonstrated with the Pepsi photo. But it's a provocation that I think we're going to discuss this afternoon, is to think about what standards can accomplish. Here are a few real-world use cases. If you open up Google and you search Hillary Clinton emails, you might come across a few articles that are from sites like PolitiFact or Snopes, where you can see something called schema.org. So you see the claim, you can see it's claimed by, and you can see a fact check. And so this is a data standard that allows certain participating organizations to have that data expressed on the platform so that readers can see more context even before they get to the article. On Facebook, they now have a feature where if you're sharing misinformation, misinformation, it places related articles in context for you to understand what else is out there. And so these articles come from international fact-checking network signatories who can then, whose articles can appear alongside. If you do a search for symptoms of, say, yellow fever, and you get a knowledge panel that shows up on the right-hand side. I tried this in Spanish, and the results are in English. So it's not quite perfect, but the idea is there is that you can get structured information within the platform. And it's not just about information, it's also about drivers, for instance, in Uber. Again, when you're stepping into a cab, you have a decontextualized person. You don't know who they are, how to trust them, what kind of rides they've taken, and so you have a standard of information. And so this is our work with the Credibility Coalition. We're an initiative that's Midan and Hacks Hackers. And you can learn more about us on social media at Cred Coalition. And I'm also a writer and researcher and publishing a book about internet memes and social movements. So this afternoon at 4 o'clock, we'll talk a little bit about our process with the Credibility Coalition, how we do annotation, kind of the initial structure that we've developed. But we're really keen to get feedback from everyone here to start thinking about what are the standards for third-party assessment of quality content. What does that look like? How can we design that? And is there a possibility of a global standard, or do we need to be thinking more regionally? So thank you very much, and I hope to see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Bueno, ahora lo vamos a escuchar a Andrew Fishman, que viene desde Brasil. Es el Managing Editor de Intercept. Su trabajo se centró en seguridad, tecnología, derechos humanos y en los documentos filtrados de la NSA por Edward Snowden. ¿Sí? Vive en Río de Janeiro, Brasil. Y bueno, habla portugués. Bienvenido a la Media Party.
Hello. We want you to get us sued. That's one of the first things that I say to all of the new hires that we have that started our company. We want them to get us, we want our reporters to get us sued, and we want our editors to make sure that we win those lawsuits. They think that we're joking, but we're really not. My name is Andrew Fishman, and I'm a reporter. This is really sensitive. Wow. That went like 8. I started at The Intercept in 2013 before it was actually called The Intercept. It was founded by Glenn Greenwald, Jeremy Scahill, Laura Poitras. It was created as a home for the reporting for the Snowden archive. Who's the guy down there on the bottom that you probably recognize? Wow, this is incredible. So in 2016, and I started living in Rio de Janeiro then. In 2016, I led the creation of The Intercept Brazil, which we started as a site to have aggressive investigative journalism that's totally independent from Brazilian funding and interests. And it was created in the middle of a massive political and economic crises that are still engulfing the country. It started in 2014, and at that time was the peak of the impeachment crisis. And we're about to have an election very soon. Both The Intercept and Intercept Brazil, they're different products, they're different sites, but they share the same central values, which is that it's created to speak truth to power, to be incredibly aggressive, and to focus on creating high-quality investigative journalism in a way that the reporters can decide the best way for them to achieve those goals, in a way that there's never any risk or worry that the threat of a lawsuit is going to kill or neuter your story, or that you have to worry about losing funding because you upset a potential funder, because fortunately we don't have those issues. The goal there is just to be able to have the most independence possible for everyone on staff. Here's some of our stars, my colleagues in New York and in Washington. And that sort of mission that exists, that created The Intercept, is pretty rare in the United States, and I believe that it made us one of the, an essential voice in the journalism community. However, those conditions are unthinkable. They've never existed in Brazil. Because in Brazil, the media is controlled, and it's, as far as I understand, Brazil is very similar to Argentina. Argentina might be even worse. Hello, anybody that works here at Clarín. That Grupo Globo is one of the, there's 5 families that control more than half of all of the media in Brazil, the mainstream media. There's 11 families that control almost everything. In certain states, there's one family that controls every single medium of communication, so the newspapers and the radio and the TV station, and if there's a magazine, they control all the same. There's a complete monopoly, and they're also the governor, the politicians, the leading politicians in the area. In Rio de Janeiro, for example, 80% of journalism jobs, more or less, this may have changed since the last time I checked, come from Grupo Globo, which is owned by the Marinho family. They're all multi-billionaires. And so if you're The Intercept Brazil and you're trying to find a Brazilian reporter who's going to do investigation into corruption or improprieties or problems within the Grupo Globo and their ties to governments, it's basically impossible to find someone that's willing to write that story, because they know that maybe they don't work for Globo now, but in a few years, maybe their project will lose funding and they'll have to try to get a job there, and Globo never forgets if you did something like that. Okay, so then say you're a reporter within Globo and you have all the resources and you have the biggest platform possible, and you want to do a story about the former governor of Rio, Sergio Cabral. Let's go back a few years ago when he was in office. And I've spoken to people who have tried to do this. You can't. They won't let you, because Globo had major interest in the Olympics and in the World Cup, and they had huge advertising budgets, and they had very direct ties to the government. Now, fast forward to today, and you want to do a story about Marcelo Crivella, who's the current mayor of Rio. By all means, go ahead. Do it. Go. They're going guns blazing, because he's the candidate that was elected by a rival oligarch who happens to be the owner and CEO of a major church and another network. So it's clear, and everybody in Brazil, whether you're rich or poor, highly educated or not, there's this understanding that this is how the media works in this country. Whereas at The Intercept Brazil, because we don't have ties to any of these individuals, we're very happy to take shots at Cabral, who's currently facing 100 years in prison for his corruption that's been revealed, no thanks to Globo or any of the other people in their network. Also Crivella, and also their corporate funders, etc. This is the number 2 group, and this is the number 3 group. There you go. Globo's doing a campaign right now as part of their marketing branch that's co-branded with them called Agro é Pop. Agro is pop. We're doing a campaign right now called Agro Talks, just mocking it because it's the absurdity of it, and it's a huge issue that's going on in Brazil that we're getting a lot of audience because of this, because the way that the mainstream media is presenting the agrotox industry, the big agro industry is lacking. Some of the reporting that we do, as I showed previously, we had some stories about a data project about militias, these paramilitary groups that are linked to the police and the military, about the assassination of Vereadora Maria de Franco. But some of the other things that we do that's pretty rare that you can't find other outlets that are doing in Brazil are direct media critiques, which are basically critiques at the center of Brazilian power. This is one that we did about Datafolha, and that was they had manipulated their research results. We got the ombudsman to say that we were correct and they were wrong. Folha maintained their position. Another one that we did about how Globo and Folha, they revealed some information about a court case going on with Marcela, the wife of the president, was being blackmailed. They had published some of the court documents, and a judge said that they couldn't do that, violation of privacy, and told them to take it down, that they were basically censored. It was information in the public interest. So we made a point of deciding that we wanted to publish this in violation or in contravention of the judge's order and basically dare them to sue us. They didn't, or to process us. They didn't, and eventually the ruling was overturned, but it was a symbol of what we're trying to stand up for. And another one here where we found that the wife of the president of Rede Record, which is the third biggest entity, she had a no-show job at a politician's office, his cabinet. We went around, we found that she wasn't there during key votes. She was actually on Instagram in South Africa or in France, and the president of Rede Record threatened our reporter, threatened to sue him, threatened him in other ways. 2 months later, she was quietly fired. But it's the sort of thing that we do that I think makes us unique in the media landscape. And we're trying to do this because we want to not just, we're not just trying to do reporting, but we're trying to inspire a different way of looking at journalism and how journalism can be done, rather than just the way that it's been done by the major institutions in the country. And as a result of that, and we've had a great feedback from our audience. Right now we're doing a crowdfunding campaign. We've gotten a lot of, we're 80% our goal in the first 2 weeks. But as a result of that, soon after we launched, the major publishers got together and they've issued a request in the Supreme Court so that our work, the BBC, El País, BuzzFeed, other foreign entities, would be blocked from working in Brazil because there's an article in the Constitution about foreign media ownership. That was created in the 1930s because American media tycoons were coming in and trying to monopolize and control the discourse in Brazil. Now, the domestic media tycoons that are monopolizing and dominating the media discourse in Brazil are trying to squeeze out the smaller competitors who are trying to create alternative voices. So since I only have 1 minute left, one thing that when we hire our staff, we've decided that we've created a few catchphrases or slogans that we're using to try to help our staff understand exactly what we're trying to do and make it so that everyone is on the same page. The first thing that we tell them is, if it doesn't bother anyone, it's not worth doing. Like, we're here to shake things up, and if you're not doing it, anyone else can do that. The other one is that jargon is the enemy. We have a list of jargon that we're producing that we're going to make public that we're banning from our site, and we're going to explain exactly why. Things like desvio, I can't think of the words in English. Desvio, can someone help me? Desvio in English. Tipo desvio de recursos. Yeah, desvio de recursos. It's not desvio, it's roubo. It's robbery. They're stealing recourses. They're not rechanneling public money into their pockets. They're stealing the money. If you look at the most newspapers, it's this view, it's not Hobo. The other one is that be the voice of the poor. The rich already have public relations. That's very true. We've seen that every time that we try to do a story about rich people. All governments lie. I have Stone. That's a famous one, but it isn't known in Brazil as well. And always telling our reporters to be more aggressive, to try to push to the line, to try to get us sued, or at least make someone want to sue you. We don't actually want to spend all of our time in lawsuits, but we want those stories to have enough impact to make enough people care that that's happening, and we're not afraid of that. And the most important thing that we're doing, and this is something I'm going to talk a lot about in my workshop, is to write it simply. We have, in Brazil, there's a study a few years ago that 60% of high school graduates are functionally illiterate in Brazil. There's a huge movement of people that are the first people in their family to go to college. There's massive engagement in politics and in society, but people do not feel represented by the elite corporate-run media that dominates the discourse. And one thing that we've heard multiple times is that when I'm reading something in the newspaper and I don't understand it, or if I'm looking at other outlets, I always go to the Intercept Brazil because it's somewhere that I can understand what the hell everyone's talking about. And that's one of the most important things that we're trying to do. We're not doing enough because it's very difficult, honestly. And lastly, have a point of view, because I think there's been a lot of talks that have been happening here that I've seen where everyone wants to change journalism, but they don't want to change the way that they're journalists. By adhering to the idea of being unbiased and not having and being neutral, in the age of public social media especially, everyone understands what it means to put up a public face. Everyone understands what it means to, I'm not going to say lie, but represent yourself in a different way. And the bullshit meter that people have, I think, has gone up dramatically. And so everybody knows that you're human beings, that you have a point of view, be honest about it, and in that way you can be more effective, and that's the way that we believe you can build better trust with your audience. But that doesn't mean, it means be fair. Don't try to be neutral, try to be fair, and be very well researched and fact-checked. I'm going to skip through most of the rest of this. These are some things that we took these slogans and we've made art, and we're putting them up to decorate our office, and we're giving them away for the crowdfunding people, contributors. And so basically, skipping most of the rest, I'm going to be doing a much longer talk at 1:30 at Sala Agosto about simple, aggressive, and relevant, a new journalism for societies that hate journalists, and talking about the ways that we're trying to create a different model that doesn't just replicate the same example that Folha or Globo or the others are doing in the country, and trying to get engagement from a younger audience and a different audience. Thank you.
Gracias. Bueno, seguimos ahora con Gabriela Hadid, es de Media Network, está a cargo de las inversiones en América Latina y va a hablar sobre la clave para el éxito de los medios independientes en América Latina. Ahora sí, Gabriela.
Muchas gracias. Hola a todos. Muy buenos días. Yo soy Gabriela Hadid, trabajo en Media Network manejando el portafolio de inversiones para América Latina. Y es un placer estar hoy presentando frente a un público innovador y emprendedor que ama lo que hace. ¿Todos acá aman lo que hacen? Esa es una representación acertada de los que están hoy acá. Yo también me pongo en esa categoría. Y un consejo que a menudo los emprendedores suelen dar y recibir es seguir tu pasión. Y eso es particularmente cierto en estos entornos de medios y de tecnología donde todos nos movemos. Así que lo que quiero hacer hoy es darles el consejo contrario. Cuando se trata de emprender, no sigan su pasión. Y digo esto porque muchas veces seguir nuestra pasión nos hace creer un mito que nos genera un montón de problemas, nos aleja de la realidad y básicamente no nos permite generar el ritmo de la práctica. Y ustedes se estarán preguntando qué hay de malo en seguir nuestra pasión. Y básicamente, para responder esta pregunta, tenemos que ver la ciencia detrás de la realidad. Este es el mito. Cuando empezamos un emprendimiento, sentimos que estamos allá arriba. Empezamos apasionados, entusiasmados. Quizás tenemos una bajadita en el medio, pero básicamente sentimos que estamos surfeando la ola. Esta es la realidad. Empezamos arriba, en algún momento nos caemos y después se hace muy difícil recuperarnos. El problema de seguir el mito de la pasión es que nos saca todas aquellas herramientas que necesitamos para enfrentar la realidad que se nos presenta. Así que esa es la mala noticia. Pero tengo una buena noticia, que es que hay un montón de historias de éxitos en medios independientes, muchas de las cuales hemos visto hoy acá. Entonces, si el mito no nos lleva al éxito, la realidad se nos hace un poco más difícil de lo que pensábamos a priori, entonces debe haber una tercera vía. Y yo creo que la tercera vía es esta, la práctica dedicada. A diferencia de la pasión, que como en el amor quizás empieza de manera muy ardiente y lentamente se apaga, yo creo que la práctica sostenida lo que nos permite es sentar bases sólidas, raíces que lentamente permiten construir un emprendimiento que es sólido y se mantiene en el tiempo. Y la buena noticia sobre la práctica, como veíamos en el gráfico, es que primero tiene una trayectoria que es completamente independiente de la pasión. Y segundo, no necesitamos que surja esa pasión para poder cultivar la práctica. Empezar un medio hoy es más fácil que nunca. Lo difícil es hacer un medio digital sostenible. Entonces, ¿cómo pasamos de la pasión a la práctica? Yo creo que parte de la clave está en una investigación que hizo Media Network el año pasado junto con Sembra Media. En esta investigación investigamos 100 medios digitales de Latinoamérica. Y hubieron 3 claves fundamentales que nos parece pueden ayudar a entender un poco cómo construir una práctica desapasionada. Y son estas: conocer tus métricas, crear un área de negocios, diversificar tus fuentes de ingresos. Y como se darán cuenta, acá mucha pasión no hay. Básicamente estamos hablando de horas frente al Excel y horas frente a Analytics. Empecemos por la primera, conocer tus métricas. Conocer tus métricas te permite entender tu tráfico. Entender tu tráfico te permite segmentar a tu audiencia. Segmentar a tu audiencia te permite construir una comunidad. Hablamos muchísimo acerca de la importancia de construir comunidades, porque en definitiva, una comunidad les va a permitir a ustedes capitalizar ese tráfico y eventualmente monetizarlo. La segunda revelación de esta investigación es que no hace falta una gran inversión para empezar un medio independiente. De hecho, no existe una correlación necesaria entre la inversión inicial y el éxito de un emprendimiento. El 71% de los medios que nosotros analizamos empezaron con una inversión menor a los $100.000, muchas veces de su capital inicial, y hoy el 10% de esos medios ya facturan más de $500.000. Aquellos que empezaron con una inversión mayor, cercana a los $38.000, hoy ya facturan en muchos casos varios millones de dólares. Pero como ven, $38.000 de inversión inicial o, en el primer caso, 10.000. Pero para que esto sea viable, no puede haber solo chefs en la cocina del restaurante. La mayoría de los periodistas, emprendedores con los que nos cruzamos, muchas veces son excelentes en la creación de contenido, pero esa es su gran fortaleza y su gran debilidad. Porque son buenos para crear contenido, pero no tienen presente la importancia que tiene un equipo de marketing y un equipo de ventas, que les puede servir para monetizar un tráfico significativo que ya están teniendo. El tamaño promedio de los equipos de medios digitales en la región es de 11 personas, de las cuales 10 se dedican a contenido. Una se dedica a tecnología, pero ninguna se dedica a ventas. Aquellos que no tienen a ninguna persona en ventas reportaron que sus ingresos anuales eran del orden de los $3.900. Aquellos que tenían una persona paga dedicada 100% a las ventas reportaron ingresos de $117.000. Y cuando hablamos de cómo hacer un negocio sostenible, por supuesto a todos nos gustaría que este medio pueda estar sostenido en su mayor parte por una comunidad de suscriptores interesada en el trabajo que hacemos. Pero vemos que muchas veces aquellos medios que son exitosos son aquellos que diversifican sus fuentes de ingresos. Y esta quizás es la diapositiva donde incumplo todas las buenas prácticas sobre cómo hacer una buena diapositiva. Hay un montón de información, pero veo que muchos le sacan fotos, entonces las sigo poniendo en mis presentaciones, porque quizás los puede inspirar acerca de la gran variedad de opciones que existen para diversificar sus ingresos y ser menos dependiente de una fuente en particular. Entonces, acá les voy a decir cuál es mi hipótesis y un pequeño secreto. Mi hipótesis es que la pasión tiene un lugar importante, pero no es preponderante. Yo creo que un medio exitoso y sostenible surge de la combinación y de la práctica dedicada de estos tres elementos. Y el secreto que les voy a contar es que conocer tus métricas, saber describir a tu audiencia, crear un área de negocios, tener un equipo diverso y diversificar tus fuentes de ingresos son el top 5 de preguntas que cualquier financiador les va a hacer la primera vez que se siente con ustedes. Y les aseguro que ese financiador no quiere escuchar que su audiencia son los millennials de los grandes centros urbanos. Quiere algo mucho más específico y quiere que esa respuesta la tengan ustedes, no que necesiten ir a preguntarle a la persona de tecnología cuántas visitas únicas tenemos en el sitio todos los días. Entonces, antes de ir cerrando mi presentación, porque es bastante cortita, pero espero que estos tres elementos queden grabados, yo empecé con una afirmación bastante polémica y provocativa, que dice que cuando se trata de emprender, no deberías seguir tu pasión. Y esto no es tan así. Obviamente la pasión es un componente súper importante y que nunca vamos a dejar 100% de lado. De hecho, si miramos el gráfico, la pasión siempre está presente. El punto es que la pasión tiene una trayectoria muy distinta a la que usualmente le atribuimos y cumple un rol menor. Yo creo que la pasión en todos los emprendimientos es un componente esencial para poder guiarlos, para poder ser su norte, para poder ser ese sedimento y esa nafta que los ayuda a empezar a luego construir esa práctica. Entonces, mi expectativa con esta breve intervención es que ustedes puedan pensar en crear organizaciones resilientes, sólidas y sostenibles en el tiempo, que puedan canalizar la pasión para mejorar su práctica acá y utilizar a la pasión como incentivo para contribuir a su práctica acá. Muchas gracias.
Y ahora seguimos con Natalie Kirby, que es directora ejecutiva del Canadian Journalism Foundation hace 10 años. Y nos viene a hablar de por qué las noticias son más importantes que nunca. Bienvenida, Valerie. Un aplauso para ella y el canal.
Hi, good morning. My name is Natalie Kirby. I'm Executive Director of the Canadian Journalism Foundation, a not-for-profit working for better journalism in Canada. I'm thrilled to be here and want to thank Mariano and Media Party for including me in this incredible program to talk about why news matters more than ever and everywhere. So coming up, I'm going to talk a little bit about Canada. I'll give you a snapshot of our media landscape. I'll talk about the Canadian Journalism Foundation as a connector and a galvanizer in the news ecosystem for change. And I'll talk about two initiatives that the Canadian Journalism Foundation launched this year in the face of a tremendous strain on the business model, a crisis in trust in the news media, and a deficit in the public's ability to identify credible sources of news and information, 2 initiatives that we launched, Newswise and World News Day, aimed at empowering and educating audiences. So Canada, because this is a conversation about educating audiences, I'd like to take a few minutes to dispel some misinformation about Canada and share a few facts. So we are not hockey-obsessed igloo dwellers who skate to our newsrooms with beavers and bears. We do not live in a frozen tundra year-round. We live, and most of you know this, we live along the US border where most of our media is concentrated. Our winters are no joke, but I left a blistering hot summer to come here. We are all about the maple syrup. We have global syrup supremacy, and we export $360 million worth a year, but our economy is not natural resource based. Our goods and our tech and services sector outnumbers our goods, natural resource sector 4-to-1, and we have a vibrant ecosystem for tech startups like Hootsuite and Shopify, and Canada is also a forerunner for AI development. We gave the world Justin Bieber. We gave you the Biebs, and you're welcome. And I'm sorry, and you might have heard this, and I'm sorry if you've heard this before, Canadians apologize a lot. We apologize frequently, we apologize when it's unwarranted, we apologize to things we bump into, and we're sorry. Everyone thinks we're so sorry, but we're genuinely sorry for this. And this is not fake news. Canada gave beavers to Argentina, and it was a huge disaster. In 1946, we flew over 20 beavers, hoping to boost the fur economy. And if you know anything about food chains, you know how this turned out. So that 20, without any natural predators, that 20 ballooned into 100,000, and those beavers have been wreaking havoc ever since. So I am genuinely sorry for that on behalf of Canada. Canadians also have a reputation for being a little beige. You can see. We're polite, we're humble, and this has garnered us perhaps an international reputation for being a little boring, but that seems to be changing, and that's thanks to our other Justin that we gave the world. He is a Prime Minister selfie, but we were all very buoyed to see the New York Times headline last year, Canada, is it suddenly hip? Well, it does have a lot to do with Justin Trudeau. He is tech savvy, he's media savvy, he connects with the younger generation, but he's also helped through his diplomacy, his intellect, and charm to elevate Canada on the international stage as a leader in immigration, multiculturalism, gender parity at our highest levels of government, and a country committed to climate change. So here's the bad news. That's the end of the fun part of my presentation, and we're going to move on to the Canadian landscape. We are home to world-class journalism in Canada. Our outlets compete on the international stage and often garner awards and attention globally. And in fact, the Globe and Mail beat out heavyweights like the New York Times and the continually innovative La Nation last year for 2 major online news awards. Our news leaders, and they all sit on my board of directors, are committed to cutting-edge journalism and engaging with audiences, with innovation, with our visual and narrative journalism. But Canada is also home, our landscape, to some very familiar publishing woes. Publishers are under increasing pressure. We're seeing journalists being fired in droves. Our local communities are becoming news deserts as they lose their papers, and in the last, their local newspapers, and in the last 10 years, we've seen the closure of 212 newspapers in 164 communities. Canada is also not immune to fake news. And with people getting more and more of their news and information online, we've seen a proliferation of fake news sites for ad profit and for political gain. And misinformation and disinformation is becoming our greatest threat to democracy. Fake news confuses people. It creates distrust in our institutions. Why would I bother voting? Why would I believe any politician? But what's worse is it creates distrust in our media, who are working hard to hold the powerful to account and to bring Canadians news stories that impact our lives. What's worse is the majority of Canadians can't identify fake news. And this is an example of just one poll in the Journalism Foundation has run similar polls where they showed a sample of Canadians 6 front pages of news sites and asked them to identify the fake news sources. 67% of Canadians hashtag failed. They could not identify the fake news sites and got 0 to 3 answers correct out of 6. 37% passed the test. So in this very complicated, noisy, unprecedented time in information complexity and pollution, news literacy is becoming increasingly important. And that's where the Canadian Journalism Foundation comes in. The foundation's been around for almost 27 years. I've been with the foundation for 10 of those years. We are a vital participant in providing programs and initiatives that contribute to better journalism. We run a suite of annual awards every year and fellowships that culminate at an annual gala where we get to have a little fun and celebrate the excellence in journalism over the year. But we also, because we're a small country, we try to look at journalists and journalism that has made an impact on the international stage. This year we had the pleasure of celebrating Ronan Farrow, Jodi Kantor, and Megan Twohey from The New Yorker and The New York Times for their blockbuster bombshell reporting on Harvey Weinstein that served to catalyze the global Me Too movement. We also host a public speaker series across the country where we bring media thought leaders to our stage to talk about the ongoing challenges facing the media. And this facilitates a dialogue among journalists, editors, news leaders, the tech community, Canadian citizens, and students about the role of media in our society. We've had Andrew's colleague Glenn Greenwald, folks like Jake Tapper. I'm thrilled to welcome Jeff Jarvis this fall as well. And these events can be magical. They bring together news leaders and all of these stakeholders in the ecosystem around solutions and challenges in the industry. So the foundation was uniquely positioned to approach our stakeholders, and we don't have members, we have stakeholders, to look at the challenges I identify, the business model that's being pummeled, the crisis in trust, and this lack of news literacy, to come up with a collaborative solution. So we approached our journalists and our news leaders, and they're on our board. I have all of them, and if any of you know how, I'm sure you can attest that it's a very competitive industry, but if you can galvanize people around a shared interest, around collaboration, again, magic happens. So we approached our news leaders to tackle these challenges. We went out to the tech communities, tech giants like Google, to support news literacy. They recognize that education is so important in this space, and they're willing to be part of the solution, to fund some of these initiatives. And we went out to civic engagement organizations who understand the role quality journalism plays in our democracy. And together, we launched in Canada the first news literacy program for school-aged Canadians, aged 9 to 19, to teach them the tools and skills they need to find and filter accurate sources of information online. I visited schools across the country and put up examples of news and information, and consistently our youth could not identify real news, fake news, propaganda, advertising, and there's an urgent need for education in this space. While these kids are news savvy and while these kids are tech savvy and they're consuming information on multiple platforms, they need to become their own editors to decipher credible sources of news and information. Google funded this initiative, google.org, to the tune of $500,000. And this was important because it was the biggest donation Google gave outside of STEM programs in Canada, and the first of its kind. And it served to catalyze funding for other similar programs in the US. And we approached Civics, an amazing civic engagement organization that's in 5 million schools in Canada that teach youth about government, about the voting, the electoral process. And we thought elections, as Marco pointed out, Marco from the Google News Lab yesterday pointed out, they provide an ideal landscape for teaching news literacy. There's a volume of Canadian news, there's opinion pieces, there's polling data, and there's a lot of information put out by parties. But there's also high potential for misinformation during elections. So the result of this program, we just launched in May in Ontario in conjunction with our provincial election. We are in 98% of schools. Feedback has been overwhelmingly positive from educators, and from parents, and we saw the highest participation in the student vote program. We're going to continue to monitor a sample of students to see how they fare in news literacy curriculum going forward, and we plan to launch this program in conjunction with our federal election in 2019 and bring our stakeholders the results of that program as we move forward. The other initiative that we launched with the aim of building trust with audience was a World News Day. And if you didn't hear about it, we're a small country and it was the first one we ever did. And I'm sorry, I'm here to get you on board for next year. But World News Day, we attached to International Press Freedom Day to bring attention to the value of fact-based journalism in our society. We brought together, again, news leaders. We brought together the tech community, and we put them on our stage. And instead of just having journalists, and I had every news outlet in the country involved in my World News Day, we took citizens at the center of important news stories in Canada to speak firsthand to how journalism changed their lives and their communities. We drew hundreds of people, both in Toronto and Montreal, for this event. And because you need a little cachet and a little sexiness for these events, I engaged top musical talent to perform on our stage. So we had musical artists throughout the evening performing and drawing attention to our cause, the importance of news, why news matters in the world. And I put Richard Gingras, head of Google News Lab, on our stage, not to do a cozy fireside chat, but to do an Ask Me Anything with the audience in the interest of transparency and how tech companies like Google can explain to audiences how they're supporting, how they're elevating credible sources of news and information in the algorithm. We also had the support of WAN-IFRA, an organization that draws from the world editors and publishers. They have a network of 18,000 print publications and 15,000 online publications, and they tweeted and they held events and they participated as well with their network in our World News Day event. We have some of our initial impressions and statistics. So I'm here today with a shameless pitch to get everyone here involved with our World News Day. It does not cost anything. Every voice matters. We can all be part of this, and these are just 4 ways that you can help support World News Day. You can tweet around the hashtag, News Matters, World News Day. You can run an ad, drawing attention to the importance of news. You can run a story, solicit a piece from an individual who was impacted in a positive way, their community, by journalism in their country, or you can devote an editorial to the value of fact-based journalism in our society. If you'd like to learn more, I'd invite you to get in touch with me. Easy to find on the Canadian Journalism Foundation sites and social media. We hope you'll join us for World News Day 2019 because news matters. I'm going to leave you with a little video, a sample of what this World News Day looks like, and thank you again for having me.
Good evening and welcome to World News Day. This evening we're going to hear lots of behind the big investigative stories from both the journalist and also the journalist subjects.
Journalism can be a tremendous vehicle for good.
When I talk about the power of journalism and trust, it's not easy as a family going through something to share your story out loud into the world. With so much information coming to our eyes and ears 24 hours a day on every platform, now more than ever, we need good journalism.
Your stories are a gift, and for it to have this lasting impact is one of the proudest achievements of my career. And it's all because you said yes.
Don't make me cry.
The very concept of free expression challenges us, the internet challenges us, because believing in free expression really means accepting that there will be expression that each and every one of us in our own way finds uncomfortable.
Thank you for letting us all speak about an industry that is so important to us and that right now may be facing its biggest challenge yet. So thank you.
Bueno, gracias Vamos al último tramo, las últimas 3 keynote. Recuerden, para los que no estaban más temprano, cuando terminen las keynote, hacemos la famosa foto en la escalera todos. Así que todos abajo cuando terminen por la escalera. Ahora es el turno de Giuseppe Macri, de Uber, del equipo de visualización de datos de Uber. Y va a contar cómo hacer mapas rápidos y hermosos con una herramienta llamada Kepler.gl.
Hello everyone, and thanks for having me and my team. It's really exciting to be here, and for this I actually would like to take a picture of you, because usually people take pictures of the screen, so this time I'm going to take a picture. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I'm here today to talk about a new Uber application that we built and open source. So I'm Giuseppe Macri, and I work in the data visualization team, and the application I'm talking today about, it's called Kepler.gl. I would like to maybe apologize for the slides. I'm not sure you guys can see them clearly, but we'll have a workshop later, so if you want to follow up, you can join the workshop later. So let's start. So one of the most important resources at Uber is data. We collect a lot of data, especially GPS, geodata. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of cars. We do around 8 million trips a day. So we would like to collect this data and analyze this data, right? But the problem is that this is a huge amount of data. And what we have is, like, the challenge we have is, how do we gain insights from this data? How do we visualize this data in order to provide users with insightful information? So let's take a look what building a map, a nice map means, right? It's a beautiful map. It's just the design, something like this. I'm not sure you can see it really well, but this is 1 million trips in New York. So the map is beautiful, right? Stunning. You can use it as a wallpaper for your computer. Wow effect. But it doesn't say too much about New York. It doesn't say about too much about the traffic, how the traffic flows in New York. So I think there is something else to say behind the maps, right? Behind the design. And we should focus also on the knowledge, on the domain knowledge of the data to gather more insights. So the data visualization team builds a lot of maps. Believe me, we build several maps per week, and that's why we decided to build Kepler.gl to give the users the ability to build, give the users the ability to create maps on their own. And these are some examples of the map that you can see. There are a lot of arcs, and they're really cute. But let's focus on the other part of building a map, right? So insightful. We want to get insights. We want to understand the data behind. We want to understand the patterns and do the data processing. So let's take a look again at this video. So this is London, a few hours of London trips. And as I said, this is beautiful. You see that there are trips going around, cars, and it's stunning. But it doesn't really say much about London. So we understand, yeah, there are cars in London, and there are trips. That's beautiful. So let's talk about another example that we had to build at Uber. I'm not sure you guys can see it really well, but on the right side, there is a map of San Francisco. And what we're talking here about, it's called Uber Pool. For people who are not familiar with Uber Pool, so Uber Pool is the shared version of Uber. So basically, multiple people share the same car to go to close by locations, right? So we wanted to tell a story to people, to the cities, to Department of Transportation, what kind of advantages Uber Pool brings to cities, bring to users, right? So, and we did a simulation. So, and the simulation is, what would happen with the same amount of people on the road without Uber Pool, without the regular Uber? Well, what will happen is that you will get a lot more traffic, a lot more congestion for the city, and a lot more pollution. So we were able to tell this story because we had the means and the tools to understand the data behind. We wanted to reach an outcome and tell this story. So while building Kepler, we decided to keep this in mind and not to build a tool just to show beautiful visualization, but also to gain insights in your data. So the tool must be smart to understand your data and tells you something more than just a visualization. So, and that's why we built Kepler. It's an in-browser application. We know browser is the most used application right now. And you can actually deal with millions of geospatial data, so easily. So let's talk about Kepler. So in this, this is some of the features that Kepler provides. As I said, it's a web application. It's client-side, completely free, open source. And it works completely on the browser. It doesn't require any server connection. It doesn't require any third party. And it takes advantage of WebGL technology to be really fast and GPU computation. Some of the features are actually built on GPU. It offers a lot of qualities like filtering and aggregation on always on the client. Let's talk about when we built Kepler. We strive to build user-friendly UIs, right? And we based the Kepler interface on a Photoshop-like layer feature. If you are familiar with Photoshop, Photoshop offers the ability to create layers. So you basically build like images on top using layers, so one on top of the other. And that's what we wanted to do with Kepler. So you have a base map. There is a map provided by Mapbox.gl, and you build layers one on top of the other. And by doing so, you can achieve beautiful and insightful results. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to do a small demo. It's a few videos. So what you guys are looking at right now, it's a data set that we found for the city of Buenos Aires. So if you're interested in this information, you can follow up with us at the workshop later, and I will give you the information about the workshop. So what are we going to do during this demo? We're going to upload the data. So Kepler is a framework that is agnostic. So you can have data in CSV, JSON, shapefile, and we are adding more and more types soon. We're going to show how to filter data, how to use some features like time filtering and time playback. And we're going to show something really interesting that is the aggregation. So basically when you want to create a cluster to gather insights on your data. So let's take a look. So the first part, as I said, upload data. Currently, you can upload CSV, GeoJSON, and JSON. KML and shapefile are a part of our roadmap. And let's start. So before we jump into the demo, I would like to tell you something about the data source that we used. This is really important to understand the capabilities of Kepler and how it deals with data and how Kepler is able to find insightful information in your data. So these are sample trips in San Francisco. So we used roughly 200,000 trips. And what we did, we created a CSV file where we have a timestamp. So basically the time where the trip actually happened, the pickup time. So we have the beginning of the trip, latitude and longitude. There's a geopoint. So we'll use this to display some points on the map. And we have some other properties that we call meta. Meta is anything but like geopoints. And in this case, it's a fair amount. We also have trip distance. And we can use this meta information to kind of tune the visualization. So keep this in mind because this is really important. Kepler will use this really carefully, will take advantage of this information to generate the visualization for you. So let's start. So, in order to upload a file, it's really easy. Just drag and drop the file. It's using CSV. It will take a few seconds. This is a file of 200,000 trips. And Kepler will automatically generate the visualization for you. So it will also create 3 layers. It's not really easy to see here, but Kepler has created 3 layers for you. So just by reading the information in your file. So Kepler is able to detect latitude and longitude, and automatically build the visualization for you. He also detected that you have 2 types of tuples. One is the begin, and one is the end of the trip. So he created 2 layers just for those information. But Kepler goes even further. So he understood there is a connection between these two tuples, and he generated another layer that is an arc layer. So basically, if you want to see how trips are moving from one point to the other, you can use the arc layer. So of course, using Kepler, you can zoom in, zoom out. We have a ton of features that you can take advantage of. So let's move on. Filtering. Filtering is one of the most important things that we built in Kepler because they're really useful to understand your data, to understand the patterns. In this example, I'm going to cover time filtering and time playback. This is actually, time playback is a feature that we use at Uber pretty often and really useful. It allows us to understand like how, for instance, the traffic moves around the city in different hours of the day or the week. So in order to generate a filter, it's pretty easy. You simply go in the filter tab, it's in the top left, add a new filter. Kepler automatically tells you the type of the properties that you have as part of your file. In this case, it's the timestamp. And it will also generate something that is called histogram on the bottom right. Kepler is able to surface the domain of your timestamp value, right? So, and you can see it on the bottom right. So, and something that is really interesting here is like you can play throughout your domain, throughout your time domain. You can play back and see how different points turn on or turn off to understand how things are moving. And this is and next one, interaction with data. So we're going to talk about brushing. Brushing is a feature that was built on top of GPU, and that was required. Otherwise, the performance would be really poor. So what do we do with brushing? Brushing is a particular type of filter that we have, and it allows users to focus on a particular area of your map. Think about you want to see the traffic going from the Buenos Aires airport to Buenos Aires downtown. You want to see how how things are, how cars are moving. Well, you can use the brush and you can mouse over the area you want to, and you can also define the radius of your brush. So these are a really interesting tool, really useful. On-the-fly aggregation. So for all the people who are familiar with clusters, aggregation is really important. It must be fast. In our case, it must be on the browser. So we provide several types of clustering. So we have the grid, hexbin. Hexbin is basically hexagons. So we think hexagons is one of the best shapes to fit the shape of the Earth. And that's what we use at Uber. So we also provide heat map. And we provide the aggregation by average, sum, mean, max. So let's see an example. So as soon as you upload the data, like we did before, you can just switch one of your layers, so you can create a new one to match the xbin property. So as soon as you create this xbin layer, you can change, you can customize the property of the cluster, such as radius, colors. Certain people miss the importance of colors and how they fit in your palette, but by switching colors and properties of the color, you can actually gain a lot of insights on your data. For instance, if you go from a palette that is quantile to quantize, quantize allows you to find you to find hotspots in your data. In this case, we found out that the downtown San Francisco has the biggest number of trips, and also the Oakland airport down there. So geometry layers, this is really important, and we use it all the time. So on the right side, you see a screenshot of the San Francisco topography, and the palette that we use is based on a property that is the height of the shape. So we offer two types of geometry layers. One is GeoJSON and one is WKT. So what we can do with shapes, we can, show buildings on the left side. And on the right side, that's actually a map of the data collected by the census in New York, where each shape represents a particular area, and the height of the shape represents the number of people that you have in the particular area. So by simply looking at this map, you can say, okay, I see a few areas orange, I see a few red areas, so I know exactly. So I'm trying to tell a story. I know exactly where the majority of the people are. So behind Kepler, this is this same screenshot of Buenos Aires with different information. So what kind of tech stack do we have behind Kepler? So Kepler was built using React and Redux. So it's a JavaScript application and is embeddable. So if you want to embed Kepler in your current application, you can easily do. And it's based on Mapbox.gl. Mapbox.gl is a highly customizable and really fast implementation of maps using WebGL. So this makes things really easy. We built a wrapper around the Map.gl that's called React Map.gl. If you ever worked with React, so this makes the use of the Mapbox API really easy. And last but not least, Uber Deck.gl. So this is another library that we built. So all the layers that you have seen so far are built using Uber Deck.gl. It's really fast, really, really efficient library. With this, I would like to thank Shan, who unfortunately she couldn't be here today. She did a great job in Kepler, 90% of the job. I would like to thank David, who is over there. I see you, who worked with me for the presentation. And I would like to remind everybody that we have a workshop today. It's a Sala de las Columnas, sorry for the Spanish. And it will be 1:30 p.m. today. And we're going to cover real use cases and how to embed Kepler GL in your JavaScript application. And we're going to go over the extended version of this presentation. So thank you for attending, and I hope I'll see you guys later at the workshop.
Muchas gracias. ¿Cómo venimos? ¿Cómo estamos? Despiértense. Sigamos con el hashtag. Gino me está obligando. Suban fotos, suban todo. La próxima keynote es la del hermoso equipo del emoji del mate.
Así que
para
Jenny,
eso me voy a quedar acá.
aquí,
Jenny, vamos a contar en qué anda el emoji del mate un año después.
Do I start? So, my name is Jenny Lee. I'm on the board of Hacks Hackers, the global organization. And last year, I came to speak about some of the work I do, which is being an emoji activist. I'm also the vice chair of the Unicode Emoji Subcommittee, which is the organization that helps regulate emoji. And I challenge the audience here to do emoji that are important to Argentinians. And I have to say that Hacks Hackers Buenos Aires rose up to the challenge and basically pushed for the existence of the mate emoji. Yeah. And
Thank you, Jenny.
I have to say it exists because of Hacks Hackers, right? Because the Hacks Hackers coming from the United States and then reaching out to Buenos Aires. So you guys should know that you have played an important role in the history of mate, in that you have brought mate into the digital age and made it part of the global visual language or idioma, I guess. And I will let this group take and tell their journey, tell about their journey to
Just in case we forget, is mate going to be in our cell phones next year? Can we say
yes?
Yes.
You'll have to say, assuming that there is a world next year, given the trajectory of the planet at this point. But if there are mobile phones, if there is Android and there is iOS, there will be mate at the end of 2019.
Thank you, Jenny. Bueno, así que acá Martín nos hizo una linda presentación. Es muy sensible, ¿querés que lo pase yo?
Dale, mándale.
Bueno, ¿en qué anda el emoji un año después? Vamos a hablar rápido para contarles tanto que tenemos. Tenemos stickers durante la tarde para darles y un desafío. Acá. Bueno, esto me escracharon los chicos. Yo soy Flor Coelho, Daniela Guini, la experta en mate de Bragado. Emiliano Panelli de Hackers Mendoza. Ahí está. Santi Narra, que no está porque está trabajando. He's hot right now. Google it. Y Martín, ¿sí? Que nos dibujó el emoji. Bueno, hay que usar el hashtag. Epa, this is going too fast. Estas son nuestras redes, no lo reservamos a tiempo como verán el dominio, así que tenemos todo distinto. Sí. Y bueno, y en el hackathon del año pasado subimos acá arriba a la antesala, levantamos la mano con Jenny a ver quién me ayudaba a hacer el emoji del mate y había más personas que después se fueron cayendo. Esto es un trabajo voluntario de esfuerzo, ¿no? O sea, de tiempo libre que uno dedica y bueno, y estamos nosotros 4 y Santi que no pudo venir. Está Jenny, que lo más importante, cómo nos ayudó con Emojination, ¿sí? Que es un ONG, más acá, un ONG que ayuda en el proceso tedioso, largo, difícil de conseguir un emoji, ¿sí? Para que sean más inclusivos. Mira, este es el día del hackathon. Ahí se ve más gente que estaba mirando a ver qué estábamos haciendo. Nos paramos en este escenario, contamos al final todo lo que habíamos... Sí, total, ¿no? Estamos un año antes. Y bueno, y empezamos a hacer mucho research.
Antes de eso, contarles... Perdón. Antes de eso, creo que es importante resaltar la ayuda que nos dio Jenny en todo esto, la guía, porque nosotros no sabíamos todas las condiciones que había que cumplir para llegar a ser un emoji. Entonces ella nos fue guiando en todo el proceso durante el hackathon y eso fue fundamental, a bajar todos los papeles de todas las condiciones que había que cumplir en Unicode y demás. Y gracias a eso tuvimos una posibilidad real de presentar algo más allá del esfuerzo que pusimos todos y el trabajo que después seguimos haciendo vía online, pero fue fundamental la guía de Jenny en cuanto a qué condiciones había que cumplir para hacer un emoji, como el que no hubiera otro parecido, que no fuera algo agresivo, que no fuera algo ilegal, y que fuera representativo no en lo local, sino lo más internacionalmente posible. Entonces, era eso, decir gracias a Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Jenny.
Yes, yes.
Dentro de las curiosidades que salen de este proyecto, que son muchas, ¿sí? Está Jenny acá para confirmar que parece que va a haber una película del emoji del mate. Is going to have an emoji of mate movie, documentary?
An emoji documentary of which mate is a fraction, yeah.
How many seconds?
I think it's maybe like a third of the main, it's one of 3 main narratives.
Okay, one third. And how long is the documentary?
I don't know. But
Okay, we don't know yet, but... Estuvimos filmando acá en Buenos Aires para este documental en enero de este año, dentro de nuestro research, cuál sería el mejor diseño del emoji. Tratamos de ser diplomáticos, ¿no? Invitamos a gente de Paraguay, de Brasil, de Alemania, también viajamos a Uruguay, ¿no es cierto? Y bueno, tratando de ver cuál sería el CAP, fuimos a ver contá vos.
Hicimos un recorrido cuando vinieron las chicas a hacer el documental. Nosotros queríamos mostrarles no solamente qué era el mate, sino cómo era representativo de un montón de cosas que incluían una producción que podía ser una producción de gran escala, como también una microproducción familiar, que fue lo que vimos en Misiones. Y después de eso fuimos a Uruguay también, donde le mostramos lo que es el mate para los uruguayos. No hicimos a tiempo a pasar por Paraguay, porque las chicas tenían nada más que 3 días para hacer todo y eran más de 3.000 kilómetros para recorrer. Y pasamos por el patio del mate, donde fabrican la calabacita del mate en Entre Ríos. Y también se hace un trabajo muy grande de inserción social, de reinserción social, con gente que tuvo problemas legales, ¿no? Entonces, todo eso mostrado en el contexto de que lo primero que te preguntan en el extranjero cuando salís con el emoji del mate es ¿qué es el mate? Entonces era fundamental explicar qué era el mate y qué era todo lo que abarcaba en su producción y en su elaboración.
Bueno, continuemos.
Rápido, manija cebada, como dijeron los chicos.
Esto es como le presentás a tu familia, tipo, vamos, dale.
Jenny me escribe, yo pensé que Mayo sabía que íbamos a ir a un lugar y Jenny me escribe, che, el fin de Semana Santa vence el último día para conseguir el emoji en 2019.
No dejen todo para último momento, ¿no?
No, cancelé mi viaje de Semana Santa, pero bueno, presentamos la emoji proposal y viajamos a Silicon Valley con Dani. Como lo hicimos, un poco nos ayudó Jenny y también vendí llaveros con mi familia y amigos para poder pagar el hotel en San Francisco, que era carísimo. Y bueno, y cuando estábamos haciendo una presentation frente, Jenny nos hizo entrar a una reunión del directorio, digamos, de los que deciden nuevos emojis, y esta es la mesa que fue en Adobe Headquarters en San José. Un día antes estoy chusmeando el Twitter de Unicode y veo que alguien dice que yo supongo que el mate del emoji que está ahora candidato lo van a usar para en vez de un bong, y yo no sabía lo que era un bong. Lo googleé y vi que era eso, ¿no? Como es para fumar marihuana. Entonces cambiamos la presentación rápido para tratar de decir que era muy healthy. Pusimos fotos de embarazadas tomando mate, niños tomando mate, el papa tomando mate, los jugadores de fútbol. Llegamos al matecito y se ve a hacer un tour por Silicon Valley. Estuvimos bueno, esto fue como nos dejaron entrar. Esto es como historia, ¿no? Gracias a Jenny.
Esto porque, claro, acá tenemos la espía adentro que nos hizo toda la movida. Y acá, mirá.
Estas son la mayoría eran así, de los jueces, ¿no?
Muy diverso el panel.
Muy diverso el panel, pero eran tipo hombres mayores de 50, blancos, ¿no? Estamos con Dani, les convidamos mate. Y bueno, y como teníamos Inside Information, nos dijo a la tardecita, estábamos muy cansadas, porque había que hablar en 5 minutos, convencerlos de que necesitábamos el emoji del mate. Y Jenny nos dice, salió el emoji, it looks like it passed, are you kidding? Y ese era nuestro grito, tipo, ¡ah! Y bueno, y acá se ve que ya pasamos 2 instancias, que es Draft y Provisional Candidates en la categoría Drink, ahí está el mate. Y Jenny me dice, ¿quiere venir a presentar a New York el emoji del mate? Y yo dije, yo no voy a ir sola, con Dani, hay que llevar a todo el equipo, así que hicimos un súper esfuerzo. Seguimos vendiendo llaveritos y por suerte conseguimos el apoyo de 2 marcas que fueron CBC y Tarahui, que nos ayudaron con los pasajes y el hotel. Y ahí en una conferencia de emojis, de las cosas más locas que me pasaron en mi vida. ¿No? Yo trabajo en anticorrupción en la Nación Data, base de datos, ¿no es cierto? Enseñando.
Era para hacerlo obvio, no era nada oficial, pero como los organizadores son varios de Unicode, había que estar ahí, ¿viste?
Sí, había como members de Unicode ahí, gente como... entonces nos parecía importante y les dimos de tomar mate durante todo el día, había mate libre, así que volvían las personas con su vasito a sacar fotos e invitamos a través del consulado de Nueva York a argentinos o uruguayos que vinieran con su termo y su mate, para que no hubiera solo el de los sponsors, quería que hubiera otros martes por si sacaban fotos. Bueno,
es el llaverito que vendemos,
sacamos, ¿sí?
Lo pueden conseguir en cualquier momento.
Está bien. Y después, ¿qué pasa? ¿Qué va a pasar? Esto es importante. Ya salió el primer dibujo oficial del mate que no es el nuestro, que es Emojipedia, ¿sí? ¿Qué va a pasar? Nuestro dibujito es muy probable que no esté en ninguna de las plataformas, porque cada plataforma, miren con las empanadas, ¿sí? Hace su propio dibujo. Así que si tienen amigos en Google Argentina o en Facebook Argentina, díganle que hablen con la gente de sus headquarters allá con el diseñador para mostrarle cómo es de verdad el emoji del mate. Y tenemos un desafío para el hackathon, que es, no lo vamos a hacer nosotros, pero queremos ayudar si alguien quiere conseguir el emoji, la milanesa con papas fritas, del chulengo, o del alfajor, o de otro emoji.
Nuestra gente secreta nos dice que son los que tienen más chance. Por cuestiones de todos los filtros que pasó el mate también. Digamos, de cosas que son más internacionales, por cuestiones morfológicas que son muy particulares de cada uno de esos elementos. Así que bueno, o cualquier otra cosa que ustedes quieran hacer.
Que no sea argentino, el abrazo, ¿qué emoji sienten que le falte? Me dijeron, el disco de vinilo, todo el mundo nos dice, me falta este emoji, hacelo vos, les digo, le paso. Pero bueno, si se les ocurre de otro y quieren, nos esperamos después en el hackathon. Y bueno, y listo, estamos.
Claro, aprovechen que tenemos todo el conocimiento, la experiencia, Jenny, o sea, ya está.
Para hacer otro emoji, ¿ok? Y pasamos como el testigo a otro miembro de Hackers, ¿no? Para conseguir más emojis. Nosotros conseguimos 1, ustedes consiguen 2 el año que viene. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Hola, quiero pasar un comunicado. ¿Hay alguien? Yo nací el 7 de marzo. ¿Alguien más nació el 7 de marzo acá? ¿Quién? Tengo tu billetera. Increíble, así, la encontraron ahí en el piso. ¿Sos vos, no? No hay otra persona que nació el 7 de marzo.
Bueno, seguimos después de este hermoso grupo que acaba de estar. Ahora es el turno de Juan Heilborn, del Surtidor. Es un medio nativo de Paraguay. Y nos va a contar, la charla es desde el storytelling hasta la performance, o qué aprendimos haciendo un medio en Latinoamérica. Así que lo recibimos.
Hola. Bueno, anoche me enteré, muy triste me puse porque por culpa del emoji del mate no podemos tener emoji del tereré. Pero bueno, hablemos de otra cosa. Yo soy Juan Heilborn, soy diseñador gráfico y, a ver, hace 3 años, y sigue siendo así hasta hoy, este era el mapa de medios en Paraguay. Lo que está en rojo es del presidente que salió recién, algo ilegal, muy parecido en toda Sudamérica. Voy a repetir muchas cosas que se dijeron, pero porque hemos aprendido mucho de mucha gente que está acá. Iniciamos el surtidor hace casi 3 años. Pueden ver, por favor, ahí en las redes, lo tienen. Aunque voy a mostrar unos ejemplos, ya hace 3 años que publicamos. Empezamos con este afiche. Empezamos con 0 capital y muchas ganas. Y pensamos que ya solucionamos gran parte del camino. En el momento que publicamos este afiche, pasó esto en Internet. La atención. Cómo captar la atención de temas relevantes en una audiencia específica. Oh, ¿qué pasó? Espera, oye. Cuando todos estamos viendo fotos de gatos, ¿verdad? Uno de nuestros razonamientos en ese momento era, ¿qué es lo que estamos haciendo nosotros mismos viendo fotos de gatos la mayor parte del tiempo en vez de trabajar? Y descubrimos que no descubrimos nada nuevo. Nos dejamos llevar por la curiosidad. Nos dimos cuenta que tratando de transmitir información relevante y racional, estábamos en un entorno que no es racional, es emocional muchas veces. Lo primero que aprendimos es a escuchar a nuestra comunidad online, a nuestra gente amiga. Somos un grupo de personas, somos 6 estables, 8 en total, que tenemos mucha experiencia en trabajar con comunidades tipo de ONGs, de derechos humanos. Tenemos 4 ejes en los que trabajamos. Uno es poder, el otro es recursos, le hace ambiente, agua, etc. El otro es género, ¿verdad? Y el tercero es derechos humanos en general. ¿Está bien? El cuarto, perdón. Y voy a mostrar rápidamente unos ejemplos. Esto es la crisis educativa en Paraguay, se viene arrastrando hace más de 10 años y es uno de nuestros ejes muy fuertes de comunicación. Como se habrán dado cuenta, todo lo que hacemos lo hacemos ilustrado. Si bien a veces escribimos artículos más largos, generalmente lo que publicamos en red es ilustrado. El tema de la tierra en Paraguay y las comunidades campesinas es un eje muy importante que seguimos. Este es un solo ejemplo. Una vez quemamos el Congreso hace 1 año y pico, no me fui a quemarlo, pero me quedé trabajando haciendo esto, ¿verdad? Ese mismo día hubo una represión brutal de la policía y se mató a un joven en la sede misma de uno de los partidos de oposición. La policía entró, hizo algo que no hizo ni en los 35 años de dictadura. Eso fue hace 2 años. Y bueno, nosotros contextualizamos con otros tipos de represión. No hace falta que expliquen, ¿no? También trabajamos mucho género. La violencia de género en Paraguay es igual que en toda Sudamérica. Es un problema gravísimo que ahora se está empezando a difundir de otra manera y a veces le damos otro enfoque. También hablamos desde lo que nos falta a los hombres. Y bueno, este es un ejemplo de ambiente, que había como un mito de las cosas que se pueden ver del espacio exterior, y la NASA había sacado una foto de la deforestación en el Chaco, que es una de las regiones en el mundo con la mayor deforestación por día. Este es el actual presidente del Paraguay, muy vinculado a la anterior dictadura militar, y en la dictadura militar había algo que se llamaba el servicio militar obligatorio, que produjo muchas muertes en los cadetes, etcétera, y el tipo lo primero que dice cuando era candidato era que quería volver a tener servicio militar obligatorio. Como se darán cuenta, hacemos muchas referencias cruzadas de cultura visual. En algún momento quisimos explicar cosas más en profundidad con videos. Hicimos los videos, tuvimos alguna repercusión, pero Paraguay es un país con muy baja conectividad y con una conectividad muy lenta. Por lo tanto, el esfuerzo que le metimos a esto, la cantidad de trabajo, y no alcanzaba el impacto que estábamos necesitando. Por lo tanto, empezamos a analizar diferentes formas de contar historias y llegamos a esta propuesta, que está en el surti.com, pueden acceder. Es una propuesta de scrollytelling, que es una narrativa pensada en mobile, basada en el movimiento del pulgar arriba-abajo, y tiene elementos de libro-álbum, mucha ilustración, poco texto. Y el ejemplo acá es una de seguridad digital y retorno de los espías, etc. Es una serie periodística que hicimos con una organización que se llama TEDIC. El segundo, bueno, voy más rápido. El segundo aprendizaje en estos últimos 3 años es trabajar con la comunidad. Y en vez de fijarnos solamente en métricas anónimas, nos fijamos también y les prestamos mucha atención a las métricas relacionales, a conocer a nuestra comunidad. Este año hubo en abril el debate presidencial antes de las elecciones. Convocamos a un chequeo en vivo, se llama La Precisa, nuestra sección de chequeo de discurso público. Teníamos 8 periodistas, 9 voluntarios, 10 especialistas en diferentes áreas y chequeamos en vivo un domingo a la noche con todo este equipazo. Un aburridísimo debate presidencial, pero a pesar de todo logramos sacar como 6 de estos afiches esa misma noche. Este es el team. Aprendimos esto de esta gente que ya estuvo por acá. Chequeado y La Nación Data. ¿Qué comunidades? ¿Con qué comunidades estamos conviviendo y cuáles son las comunidades que nos soportan ideológicamente? Este año se publica el 4 de septiembre una serie sobre una de las comunidades más discriminadas del país, que es la comunidad trans. Hicimos un taller de podcast con la comunidad trans. Y era genial cómo los voluntarios y las chicas trans empezaban a contar historias y las cosas que salían. Y uno de los podcasts que sale de este taller se publica el 4 de septiembre como parte de nuestra serie. Esto lo aprendimos también de otra gente que estuvo por acá. ¿Y cómo servimos a los objetivos de nuestra comunidad? El 8M, para la semana del 8M convocamos a 8 ilustradoras que no están en nuestro equipo, les pagamos algo simbólico y editamos durante toda la semana, publicamos afiches de conquistas de la lucha feminista. Fue así hermoso trabajar con 8 chicas a la vez tratando de editar estos afiches, difícil pero genial. También publicamos nuestro afiche el Día de la Mujer Paraguaya, otro plagio, ¿verdad? Pero también agarramos y adaptamos esta misma gráfica a la marcha del 8M, que fue el evento político de las organizaciones civiles más importantes del año pasado. Y bueno, se imprimieron muchísimas remeras con el PDF que repartimos anónimamente y ahí está, esa es la foto oficial de la marcha. Aprendimos de otra gente que estuvo por acá. Y el tercer aprendizaje es de algo que se habló durante toda la semana, la sostenibilidad. Este slide se repitió varias veces esta semana. Bien, encontramos que tendríamos soluciones tecnológicamente factibles a necesidades de las personas con las que necesitamos hablar, con nuestra comunidad. Encontrar esa estrategia de sostenibilidad, estamos trabajando en eso y ese punto rojo es donde tendríamos que estar en el futuro y si todo sale bien estaremos de vuelta en este escenario el año que viene. Diversificar ingresos, ese es nuestro objetivo de aquí a 2 años. Otra muestra de cuánta gente, o sea, de cómo se diversifican los tipos de ingresos según categorías de medios, según sus montos. Y el último aprendizaje, que es el que estamos haciendo en este momento, es un proceso, estamos convirtiéndonos en gestores de una comunidad informativa, estamos aprendiendo de nuestra comunidad, estamos conviviendo con ellos, estamos celebrando con ellos y esperamos poder sostenernos con ellos. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias, Juan. Bueno, llegamos al final de las keynote. Ahora vamos a ir abajo para la foto de la escalera, según dice el jefe. Y después todos los workshops van a estar abajo seguro con el megáfono gritando dónde son para repasarlo. Así que vamos todos abajo a la foto.